And here we go. This is another episode of the Uncivilized Arts podcast. I'm your host, Bundy Hazan, but I go by Bandit Haze in the online space. And today, once again, joined by the amazing Celeste, cosplay extraordinaire. We're going to be talking about Spirited Away, the anime from 2001. And yeah, we're going to get into all kinds of spoilers and stuff like that a bit later on. But before that, we're going to talk just a little briefly about the movie, just a little briefly about, some what we think of the movie. But before that, Celeste, Wagwan, how you doing? What you been up to? What's been keeping you busy these last few weeks?
The past few weeks, I had 3 conventions back to back, and I was working the Artist Alley with my own booth, Bunny of the Moon. And so that was really busy. And then, of course, growing a human in me. Yay!
Yeah, we were just talking about plants and people. I was just thinking the other day, actually. I had just thought maybe some weeks back, maybe some months back, actually. Growing a plant is just as hard as raising kids.
No, absolutely not. Don't ever say that to me again.
You have to
some people water a plant and keep it in sunlight or less sunlight. Like, do you have to play? Do you have to change poop? Do you have to make sure that they eat properly? I mean, yeah, water and fertilizer, but it's just like, okay, you have to take your vitamins. You have to take this. And then it's just like, oh, they're tired. They're hungry. No, a plant sits there. It's not going to scream at you and fall off on purpose and be like, oops. Yeah, yesterday, oh my God, Mario was just playing around, and then he knocked over my recycling bins because they're stacked recycling bins. So all the paper and then all the plastic just went sploosh all over the kitchen floor. And I was just like, I really don't want to bend down and pick all this up. And I'm cooking dinner at the same time. Tell me a plant would do that to you.
Well, actually, no, I'm playing. But yeah, it's one of these things where it's like, you hear people say stuff like, I don't have kids, but I've got cats, that kind of thing. And I ain't got none of those things, so I know, but I do have plants. So that's my thing. I'm going to start telling people that raising plants or looking after plants is just as hard as. I'm going to just deliberately. I don't really mean it, by the way. I'm just going to say it just to piss people off. Yeah. I don't have kids, but I got plants, and that's just as hard. I'm going to start saying that.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have. Well, you're going to have someone that's just going to get rubbed too hard the wrong way. I know. It'll be okay. At least you don't have to grow yours inside you.
True. Unless you swallow seeds, which they won't grow inside you.
It can happen because I remember reading this guy ate lima beans, but he choked on a lima bean and then it went down to his lungs, and then because it was moist and getting air, some of the lima beans started actually sprouting. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't huge. But there was a root.
Really? Wow. That must have been painful.
Yeah.
Damn.
I'm not that guy.
Tree growing inside you.
It can happen.
You'd be like Groot. I am Groot.
I don't want.
Okay.
I mean, it'd be fun to have Groot to do things and carry me. But I don't think that's going to happen.
So have you had time for much gaming or shows or movies, or has it all been mama duties and cooking?
Oh, so actually I finished season 2 of Physical 100. It's only 9 episodes, but it's an hour each episode. And I'm just so fascinated with how these people are fitness fanatics or sports people, or certain jobs make people so fit. So if you watch Physical 100 on Netflix, I'm ready for that. Not gonna spoil anything, but I loved this new season. It was intense.
What was it on Netflix? Physical 100.
I'm also watching Delicious in Dungeon.
Okay. What kind of? I'm not sure if you said it's on Netflix. I'm not sure I've heard of that. Is that what is a game show or?
Yeah, it's a Korean competition show. and they take 100 different athletes of different backgrounds. So you got gymnasts, sumo wrestlers, power lifters, crossfitters, people who work in construction, firefighters, just all sorts of different types of backgrounds, regardless of gender and age.
Hmm.
And so they are put into these rigorous quests, their challenges. And the person who comes out on top of the other 100, like 99 contestants, is like the physically 100, like number one fit person in like the perfect body type.
Okay, interesting.
There's two seasons. Two.
All right, all right. Um, okay. I mean, myself, I've what did I was watching a show recently. I actually watched a few shows actually. I actually watched Halo season two. Speaking of season twos,
Oh.
um, so I had Paramount Plus. Here's the thing, actually, I had Paramount Plus. I'm pretty sure I had Paramount Plus. I had a free trial when I watched Halo season one, and I just binge watched Halo season one, and then for some reason I got a second free trial, and I was kind of like, wait a minute, I'm sure I've had one before, but anyway, I don't know if it's a mistake or they just gave me a second free trial, but anyway, I had a second free trial for Paramount
Use a
Plus.
different email.
And I was like, all right, cool. Let me just binge watch Halo season two now. So I did that. I watched Halo season two, which was pretty good, by the way. Actually quite enjoyed it. I thought they did quite well. I think I prefer season two. Overall, I prefer season two to season one from what I can remember of season one. I mean, I like season one too, but I think with season yeah, I like season one as well. But I think with season two, they I feel like from memory they carved out a more interesting story, and also like that they're not really following the story of the game too closely.
Really? I
Like,
don't know. That would bother me. That would bother me so much because, like, I don't, I can't play first person shooters, but I would like to know the story in like a cinematic point of view as opposed to just watching like a playthrough. I don't,
yeah,
I like seeing how directors and actors would portray like the characters in the storyline that they need to follow. And what happens when they try to deviate, it kind of
mm.
looks bad. So,
No, that's true. I think there are definitely times where deviating too much can be a problem, but personally, I feel like it works for this mainly because the story in the Halo games is pretty forgettable. you know,
that's fair.
like
You're there
it's
to play
not
multiplayer. You're not there for story.
right exactly like
Anyone that's there for story is like them saying that they're there for the lore of League of Legends.
right. I mean, there's some cool story elements in the games for sure. But overall, it's like unless you're like the hardcore of Halo fans, I imagine most people who play that game couldn't tell you what happened in it. you know what I mean?
I
They'd be
don't
like,
think there's that
yeah,
many like hardcore Halo fans anymore this day and age. There's so
mm,
many new games,
this is one person, it's that one
like the
guy
20 people out of
who
like the
actually
million that
read the
used to
books.
play. But you know that there's also on Amazon Prime the new Fallout
Oh
series,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
everyone and their mom like binge watched the crap out of it because they released all of it in one go. It's not per weekly. Another one that's really hitting the internet, I should say, and it's been hitting for a while, is Has Been Hotel. I haven't had a chance to watch it. I do want to watch it. I just haven't had the chance.
Has been hotel. That's what's that? A comedy? It sounds like a comedy.
Um, it's a mature comedy animation. So they
Okay.
deal with a lot of dark adult theming, and it's not really meant for kids, but somehow parents still like kids watch the show. And like this past weekend at the 3-day anime event that I was at, there was like a 12-year-old cosplaying as the main character. And I'm just like, you don't you shouldn't be watching this because it literally has a disclaimer that this is for 18 plus mature audiences. You're not going to understand the themes. And if you do like these characters, you don't understand that some of them are drug users, rapists, like, oh, okay. Well,
Yeesh.
anyways,
Yeah,
bad
yeah.
people, because Has Been Hotel is about demons getting their redemption into heaven. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so that's
You know,
that's the premise of it. I'm not gonna say that I know all of it, but I do know some of the characters from watching the pilot on YouTube. I'm just like, oh, like a character's name is Angel Dust. That's another name for cocaine, damn it. You can't tell me that you're allowing your kid just to be like, I want to cosplay Angel Dust. It's like, oh, that's not really good because that character is a porn star and your nickname is cocaine. Good job. Like I don't like the idea of my kids or kids in general under the age of 18. I don't care how mature you think you are. Until you pay your taxes and you pay your rent, you should not be cosplaying characters that probably have to do that to pay their rent. Okay?
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. But I'm also thinking, like, back in the day, we were watching plenty of stuff we weren't old enough to watch. I
Oh
think the
yeah, like
difference,
Braveheart and Interview with a Vampire, but you don't see me like messing shit up.
yeah, I think one of the differences, I mean, maybe you could speak to this a bit more, being a parent, but I feel like one of the differences is that back then, certainly in my house, like my parents were like, they weren't really into movies and stuff, so they're not really looking at what's going on in that kind of zeitgeist. So you hear RoboCop, it's like, okay, so RoboCop, that's what they're thinking. You know what I mean? Like we know what it's about because we're kids, we're kind of into it, so we're watching. We're like, yeah, it's RoboCop. Let's go. Let's watch RoboCop. And so your mum gets you this VHS tape of RoboCop, and you're watching it, and it's like the most violent thing ever that you see at the time.
Yeah, right.
But I feel like, yeah, but these days I think parents, especially if you the people who are kids back then, their parents now, they're grown up now, they're probably a bit more into what's going on, with that sort of thing, the violent stuff, the sexual stuff, and stuff like that. Whereas back then, it was just like, especially like immigrant parents, like where everything's different from the country you're coming from, and you come here, you're not really into like that whole thing. Like you just a lot of it kind of escapes you, so you just kind of like, okay, whatever. I feel like that's maybe one of the differences. Parents now or perhaps a bit more in tune with what's going on than parents back then, so yeah, we got away with watching so many violent things
Oh
back
my
then.
god, right? And then playing like Grand Theft Auto and games where you just shoot them up and it's like, okay, it's fine. Especially because like Looney Tunes, you had a cross-dressing bunny and like kissing men on the lips and all these things. It's like, you know, we're not, well, I think we just have a different mindset because we weren't always subjected to like sexual things or violent things. Like, yeah, it was violent, but it was slapstick humor violent. You don't
Mm,
actually see the consequence of someone dropping an anvil and their eyeballs gushing out. So it's a different type of thing because you can grow up with slapstick humor where someone gets slapped in the face from Three Stooges, but it's another thing when you get slapped in the face by a giant machine and then your head explodes, you know?
mm,
And it depends on the type of violence and then the metaphors that it's giving versus what we have in this day and age. They are trying to be such storytellers that they have to explore it deeper, harder, and sometimes it really just destroys like that childhood innocence of like, oh yeah, I just watched it to watch it and then I can throw it away. Like you can do that with Disney movies this day and age.
mm,
And then you can go back and be like, oh wow, that was such a good movie. Okay, I'll watch it again later. But instead, now you have these lingering thoughts or lingering values. And I would dare say that's probably why all of us are always so quote unquote sexually charged or violently charged, is because that's what's in the media. We don't have very good storytelling, so they rely on these two kind of topics. Well, I shouldn't say those two, but violence, drug abuse, and sexual like energy
mm.
being put through because they don't have good storytelling or something along those lines. So it's like, okay, what's the motive behind this person? Power, greed. And then you can kind of just break it down from there, but you can't just keep it like a basic, simple thing because one person out of all the like hundreds of people are going to be like, that's not good enough storytelling for me. And I'm just like, it's Pixar. It,
Mm.
what the hell do you think? It's for kids. If you want something hardcore, go watch Miramax.
Well, maybe not Miramax. Miramax might be a little bit controversial.
Well, that's the point because Miramax is supposed to make you think a little bit extra. Well, I mean, it's not Pixar, and Pixar is meant for family-friendly storytelling.
Yeah,
It's
no,
supposed
for
to be
sure.
kind of like a an open closed shut case as opposed to like Inception. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One thing I would say, I think I've said this before, but it might be worth saying it again. I can't remember if I said it before, and I probably have said it before. Can't remember if I said it here. It doesn't matter. Anyway, one thing I like about a lot of the Disney, like Pixar stuff, or just Disney stuff in general, especially like a lot of the like CGI movies where they do it Pixar, is that although they are primarily aimed at kids, you know, they are oftentimes made in a way where adults can get something from it as well. You know, and I think one of the things that Disney has done quite well over the years is that they realized that, okay, if you're a parent and you're taking your child to go see this kids movie, whatever, you're still going to be sitting in the cinema, you know, watching this thing as well. And rather than feeling like, oh, this is such a chore to take my kids to the cinema because this movie's so boring and, you know, there's just nothing there and you're just like there for the kids only, they've kind of made them in ways where, you know, you can watch it as an adult and feel like you're getting something from it. And then the kids are watching it and they're completely missing all these other things. And another good thing about it is that if you are a kid watching these movies, you might enjoy them. And then you watch them, you know, 10, 15, 20 years later as an adult, you know, you've seen it in a completely different light, you know. So, yeah, I feel like Disney have done quite well with that in terms of their storytelling. And even now, if you're on like, you see like on Instagram or something where somebody's got like, some video saying something, oh, it's taken me 20 years to realize this from The Lion King, and, you know, and how that was it the skull that, was it Mustafa? I can't remember the character's name, but the other
Mufasa?
bad lion, Mufasa. Apparently, the skull that the bad lion has was the same shape as the skull of the good lion. I forget their names right now, but
It's
there's a
Scar and Mufasa.
Scar and Mufasa. Okay, so yeah, there's a skull.
I'm a
Scar
very
has a
big Disney
skull
person,
and it's the
okay?
same shape as Mufasa's head or something. Like,
Yes.
but yeah, it's just things like that where like, oh, okay,
Oh my god, oh my god. Okay, so piggyback off of you, our last podcast that we did together was Disney princesses.
yeah,
And I learned like something really like I didn't really like think hard about this, but Mulan, yeah, she's a war hero, but she's murdered a lot of people.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you know,
I didn't think about
combat, yeah,
that.
but yeah,
She's a freaking murderer. No, she's like, okay, let me cause this avalanche and destroy your entire army. We don't know how many people that is, but that's a lot of people. And then at the end, when she's saving the emperor and all of China from Shan Yu, she's all like, oh yeah, I'm gonna blow you up with a firecracker.
yeah,
Not just one, but all of the ones that's on top of the roof. Do you know what the main ingredient in firecrackers are?
but gunpowder.
Yeah, exactly. She shot him to death. She lit that bad boy up.
That's
And then
the
she
thing about.
still gets a man at the end. Like, what? I'm just like, not only is that one of the best movies to quote, but I'm just like, oh my God, we
She's
got a
psycho.
murderous princess up
Yeah,
here.
she
Like,
she's a bit out there. Yeah,
but like, here's the other part. Like I was also thinking about it because like I was like, there's got to be someone else that's done something wrong. Like maybe. So Princess Anna from Frozen just punches Prince Hans, and that's it. She doesn't murder anyone. So I'm just like, okay. And then with Princess and the Frog, she breaks the medallion. You know, at the end, she's like, "It's not slime, it's mucus," and then breaks it. But that guy, he contacted the voodoo realm kind of people. So you shouldn't be messing with that. Same with like Ouija boards. You don't mess with that. You don't mess with it. Okay. Comment down below. You don't mess with it. Okay. We're good. So even like Snow White, she didn't kill the queen. Maleficent was slain by the prince. Yeah, there's no other princess. Even Moana. Moana saves like land. So I'm just like, about that. Mulan, you're kind of the odd one out right now, being a freaking murderer. Even if it's for the good of the people, you still murdered like 100 people. And
yeah.
in front of all of China.
That's kind of one of the things about movies sometimes, where the good guys would kill way more than the bad guys, and often, I mean, in the old school, like the 80s, right? It was like all violent action movies, right? But even, but now, maybe not just now, even back then, sometimes, like if they're more, say, kid friendly movies, what they'll do is that a lot of the killing would be off camera. So, like, it'd be there, but you wouldn't necessarily see it. And like in Mulan, for example, like you don't necessarily see people like dying. You just know that she caused some things, and yeah, most likely people got deaded during those things that she did.
Oh yeah.
Or like in Star Wars, where it's like they blow up the Death Star, and it's like, okay, you don't see it, but how many people would have been on that Death Star? You know, like how many people just been, and a lot of them not even nothing to do with the Empire. They're just like regular people, like trying to feed their families. You know, they got a job somewhere. And in fact, somebody points out, I think it was a movie, I saw this, it was like a Kevin Smith movie, I think, where they pointed out that in the second time they blew up the Death Star hadn't been completed, which means there would have been construction staff there, you know, just like doing their jobs. And, you know, they're not involved in the whole Empire thing. They're just trying to, you know,
no, they're
take
just
care of their
independent
families, trying to,
contractors.
yeah, exactly. And
They're just like,
they're
all
all
right,
just
I got enough money for this nice little gig. Don't have to worry about making like instant bread rice, like what Ray had to do. And
right.
what was it? That the new trilogy. I think it's just ridiculous, but you know, it's just sad. Anyways,
Yeah.
that's not today's topic.
Good guys be killing. Well, speaking of good guys, actually, no, I don't think it'd be good. Do any? No, nobody dies in this movie. No, I don't think nobody dies is spirited away. I don't think so. Nobody dies. Nobody
Well,
dies.
it's metaphorically in so many ways.
Mm.
In
I mean,
spirited
there are
away.
spirits, so
You
I guess
feel the
somebody died.
spirit realm.
Yeah. But before we get too much into that, that might be a minor spoiler, but my bad. We'll get into more spoilers later on, but for now, what would you say as we drift into Spirited Away? What would you how would you describe this movie in terms of like what was your initial kind of for now non-spoiler opinion of before we get into the main spoilers? What's your non-spoiler opinion of Spirited Away? Like, how would you describe this movie for somebody who hasn't seen it?
Let's see. I made sure to rewatch it this week. So I would say that it focuses on a young child girl. Um, I don't really know her age, but I would say pre-adolescent. So like 12-ish years old. And, you know, she's spoiled, she's scared. And you meet this girl with her family and they're relocating. But it's just like any new kid. Uh, it's a coming of age story of her becoming stronger in a sense. So it's not like spoiler if I say it like that, but you don't know how. But I do think of it as like her becoming her own independent thinker and becoming stronger on her own accord while knowing how to ask for help or like finding the right way to do things.
Mm. Yeah, I think
I'm trying not
I'd
to
agree with
spoil
that.
anything.
Yeah,
I'm like,
without going into too
I
much
think.
detail just yet. But yeah, it's definitely I'll say yeah, kind of like a coming of age, kind of like a finding yourself, knowing yourself, kind of realizing I guess like inner strength and overcoming like fears and being in a situation where you don't know what to do or how to handle it, and all you can do is all you can do, and trying to do the right things at the right times. And yeah, I think that's a fair way of describing it. And in terms of like, it's an interesting film in a sense that like a lot happens and nothing happens at the same time, and I'll try and explain more what I mean by that sort of later on.
Yeah.
But it's it's an interesting film in that sense. I think for anybody who hasn't seen it, it's definitely worth watching, even if you're not strictly speaking into anime, just because the story that it crafts out is very, I don't know if unique is the right word to use, but certainly not something you see in very many places. Certainly not in Western cinema. You don't see these kind of stories where you just have a character that is actually, let me say too much. I might go into spoilers too much. So yeah, let me leave that there for now, and let's go into spoiler territory. So yeah, from here on out, this is your spoiler warning. Actually, you know what? Before we get into that, I want to do something that I don't know if this is going to be a regular thing for the podcast or not, but I just thought of it maybe just a few moments ago because I have a cup of coffee with me, and so I'm going to do a coffee check because I made the coffee that I made. I don't know if there's a name for it, but I saw it on YouTube where you get some instant coffee, you have some brown sugar, add a little bit of water, and then you have like an electric whisk it up, and then add milk. Well, you add ice and milk. And I wanted to make that because I thought it looks really cool. However, I don't have brown sugar, and I don't have ice. So, I used instant coffee, vanilla syrup, sugar-free vanilla syrup, a little bit of water. I do have an electric whisk, so I use that to whisk it up, and it foamed up. Then I added almond drink to it, and you know it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Definitely very foamy.
The recipe, but I think you got something nice going there.
Yeah, definitely. I would say the one thing I should have done differently is maybe use a bigger cup because when you foam it up, it does rise quite a lot. You know, when you whisk it, it rises quite a lot. So maybe use a bigger cup. But aside from that, yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. So that's my coffee check.
That's good. I have this cup, this goddess, and I'm drinking water. Normally,
good.
I do have
gotta stay hydrated
tea with a little bit of milk in it and sugar cubes.
But yeah, you gotta stay hydrated. Gotta stay hydrated because yeah,
it's not just me.
Yeah, you gotta make sure there's
a little bump go like this. That's him.
Actually, if you drink coffee while you're pregnant, would your baby come out just really hyperactive?
Yeah, that would actually pretty bad. I'm supposed to limit my caffeine intake to, I think at this point where I'm at now, it's supposed to be 2 max cups of coffee and then like 2 cups of tea. So when I get sick, when I was sick, that sucked. I would only drink tea in the morning, and then I would keep the residual bottom part of the tea and then fill it all up with milk to have milk tea to blend out the rest of the caffeine inside it.
Okay, was that 2 cups per day or
per day?
Per day. Okay, that's pretty all right. I think I probably average about 2 cups a day anyway.
People drink 5 cups of coffee a day, and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, that's excessive. I like coffee. I really do. Coffee is one of my favorite things, but that's a lot. I think if you drink it that much, you're just jittery a lot, right? I mean, you're not sleeping for one thing. You can't be sleeping very well if you're sleeping at all. You know, like that's a lot because that's gonna be. I mean, you're talking about some 500 milligrams of caffeine a day. That's a lot. That's a lot. Maybe more than maybe around like 600-700 milligrams of caffeine a day. That's a lot. That's a lot. So yeah, I usually go. I would say most days 1 or 2 cups of coffee. Sometimes 3. I think the most I've done is 4, but that's a rarity. Most days is 1, maybe 2. So this is my second and probably the last for today.
Yeah, and I mean it's still in the morning, so it's okay.
Yeah, still
There's some people who just like I need more coffee. Later on.
Yeah. But yeah, so let's get into some spoiler territory discussion of Spirited Away, the 2001 movie, anime movie, written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki, the man who will not retire.
I don't think that's a bad thing because he's a creative, and everyone that's like he needs to retire, and like you need to shut the hell up.
You know, I agree with that, actually. I mean, the thing is that he keeps saying he's going to retire, though. That's the thing. Like, he keeps announcing his retirement, and then he doesn't retire. And it's like, all right, cool, dude. Just don't announce it, man. Just don't. Exactly. But, you know, you're right. I feel like if you are creative, you never really retire. You know, maybe you just go long periods of time where you don't do so much, you know, but you never really retire. In fact, I think it was... Oh, Kirk Douglas? It was Michael Douglas's dad. I think it's Kirk Douglas. If I'm getting the name right or wrong, someone can let me know. But Michael Douglas's dad. he did a movie. He did like Spartacus and a bunch of movies back in the day. But I saw an interview with him once where they asked him about retiring from acting because I think he was doing a movie at the time, like he had a part in a movie at the time, and I think the last movie he did before that was like many years ago or something like that. And I think the interviewer said something along the lines of like, how do you feel about coming out of retirement or something, some kind of question like that. Anyway, but what he said, what I remember is that as an actor never retires. It just gets longer and longer between your jobs.
Your next
But
role.
and I feel like that applies to just creatives in general. Like you don't retire, you just maybe have long breaks.
Yeah,
just,
exactly.
and eventually you
It's
you
like
stop
saying,
breathing.
"Oh yeah, I'm gonna stop painting," and then what does that mean? Like you're just gonna stop
Mm,
using a paintbrush? Are you stopping using like spraying cans? Like you're still gonna be a creative person unless you lose your hands. Like what? Like I don't agree to that. So
yeah, no, for sure. I feel like that's just any kind of creative. Like you always find ways of being creative. It's not always going to be big ways. It's not always going to be a movie or whatever it is. But I feel like if you're a creative person, especially someone who's been doing it for so long, was like, what else are you gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna
exactly.
stop doing this, and then what? I feel like a creator needs to create. You need to express yourself in some way, and for Hayao Miyazaki,
To
that's
do
clearly
something with
through
your time,
animated movies. Yeah,
like what do you do if like okay, I'm gonna travel. Okay, so what happens after you're done traveling? Like
yeah,
you're gonna run out of money. You got to do something, or
right.
like you're just gonna sit there and watch TV and be a bum. I don't know. Like we're not. We're doing a podcast about it, but yeah, I don't think you ever stop being a creative. Hayao Miyazaki just came out with a new film this year called The Boy and the Heron. So
Yeah,
look at
I haven't
that.
seen that yet. Though. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Oh,
Actually, oh, there was one more thing that I watched. It was the new Disney movie called Wish. I actually
oh
watched
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
How's
my
that?
god, I'm so obsessed with that one. Like I didn't think I would like it as much because everyone's like, it sucks, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, actually, this is pretty good.
This is that it's an animated film, isn't it? That's an
It
animated film,
is.
right?
They use like this weird motion blur technology. I'm trying to make sure that this is working on my laptop, and I think I just put it in the wrong spot this whole time.
Was that plug? I
My
just saw some
charge
cables
cord.
going around. Okay, yeah, you want to make sure
Yeah.
it's
So
charged.
I'm just an idiot. It was in the wrong charge port this whole time.
Whoops.
I was like unplugging everything everywhere because I was like, why isn't it charging? The TV turns on. I just put it in the wrong laptop port because there's two USB-C ports. And
Okay, is that
yeah,
an Apple
anyways, yeah,
laptop?
I just finished watching Wish. I've watched it probably 3 times now because I really like it. I enjoy the soundtrack. Chris Pine is the king. They got some newcomer as the main girl. And they're like, oh yeah, we have over 100 uh, homages to different movies from Disney, and this one is mainly supposed to be about making wishes and making your wishes come true. And I'm just like, oh, well, that's what
Mm.
Disney is, but that's really expensive to go to Disneyland.
Hmm. So is that? I mean, would you? Well, I guess you'd recommend it to to watch then.
I could, I would talk about it. Like if you want to do a podcast on that, I could talk about it because there's some interesting themes in that. It's strange themes, but at the same time, I think it's worth exploring in a future episode. And if you guys want to see it, make sure to leave a comment down below if you want to
Indeed, yeah. If you wanna hear us talk about Wish, make a wish.
know. Shut up.
Wish.
Yeah,
All
no.
right. So
So back to Spirited Away. Hayao
yeah,
Miyazaki
from
directed this
wishing
film.
away to spirited away. So yeah, Spirited Away is the film we're gonna talk about right now, and again, spoiler warnings from this point onwards. So, um, Lady Celeste Orchid, what is the biggest thing about Spirited Away for you? Like, what is the most standout thing for you?
Consumerism and capitalism.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Consumerism, I think, if you've seen the film, of course, and you should have if you listen to this part. But yeah, that's definitely
I mean,
like you
it's
got the
been
parts
23
of
years, people. Come on.
yeah, exactly. Come on. But yeah, you got the parts in the beginning where the parents are eating all the food, so you've got very much consumerism that way. Capitalism, I guess you could look at the parts where they're in a bathhouse and, the no face is like giving them all the money to just like, consumerism there as well. He's eating everything. But also just the way he's just kind of giving them the gold and they're just doing what he says and kissing his ass and everything, even though it turns out to be fake gold, but they don't know it till later on. Is that how you'd see it, or am I thinking of a completely different consumers and
Well,
capitalism
no, you're
movie?
right, but it goes deeper than that because, like, that's part of it. Because when Sen crosses over, no, her name's not Sen. Chihiro crosses over.
Yeah.
She has to
Put
sell
some
her
respect in
name
her
to
name.
become
Yeah.
Sen to work at the bathhouse, and that's a type of consumerism into like slave labor, quote unquote, because it's like she's not really paying Chihiro to for her services. She's letting her stay there, and then she's letting her have her food there. But at the same time, Yubaba gets to really just push her around and make her do these things. And I think at that point, Sen has to learn, okay, this is how a job would work because I need to listen to my boss without questioning or without like caring. It's like, jump, how high? Where do you want me to go?
Mm.
No, just jump. Like that kind of thought of like not consumerism, but like work ethic, quote unquote. So the other part of like consumerism is just like they had so much waste that was being used. Then like when the parents ate all that stuff, oh my god, that's like one of the grossest scenes for me. I just like blah, like I was eating my lunch and I'm like, oh, that's right. Oh, and then they turn into pigs. But even the house staff, like there's this part with the raw newt, and they're like, oh my god, that's so important. Oh my god, consumers, gimme, 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 gimme. And like the gold, gimme, 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 gimme. And like I need the best water, gimme, gimme, or you can't have it. So there was a lot of like precious resources that were just like, oh, this is so important for me to have versus the I don't want to call Yubaba like the patriarchy, but like the highest level of controlling the spiritual bathhouse. Like her son was in this like super frou-frou pillow, like sweets and candies room, living a life of luxury, not knowing how hard people underneath him have to work to provide that for him. And like his mom is just like,
Mm.
oh, it's gonna cost a fortune to clean the bathhouse now. And it's like you're you're standing at the top. Like, how are you going to have a problem with this compared to like Lynn or the soot little lumpy balls? Like they get fed candy. It's not like equal ground.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. No. I'll say that. So you have like you Bob, I guess, represents the extreme capitalist in a sense that she's just gonna give them the bare minimum to get what she wants. Um, and even not even just Yubaba, but also like I guess that trickles down to some of the other stuff as well. So there's that section, that part where Chihiro needed like the bath salt, some kind of
Mm-hmm.
like herbal bath
Yeah,
thing, and she was asking the
water.
foreman for it. And he wouldn't give it to her. He's like, "Oh no, I'm not going to waste it on you." When the truth is, it's like, wait a minute, you all work there. You're not wasting it on her. This is what's needed to run the bathhouse. But the idea that you're gonna withhold it from this one because she's dealing with a person who's not maybe not considered as important. Oh yeah, whatever. You just go do the grunt work and scrub with your fingernails if you have to. We're gonna
Right.
save this for the important ones. Of course, he gets it through No Face in the end. And No Face, actually, speaking of consumers and capitalism, is the interesting one because he or she, I guess we don't really know.
No face is
They
it's just a monster.
yeah, it
You can call it an egg.
um but they or yeah he when when he meets such a hero the first time, she helps him kind of just by letting him in the house and leaving the gate open, and he really or they wanted to reward or pay that back in some way. But Chihiro being who she is and just very much out of that kind of mindset of I'm doing this for money, I'm doing this for gain. She's only really there because she wanted to save her parents. So every time No Face was trying to offer her, gold and things like that, she was like, thanks, but no thanks. Chihiro perhaps, No Face was perhaps representative of this idea of trying to buy people, like, oh, I've got all this money, I can do what I want. But then Chihiro being that one person you can't buy,
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like that sly fox scammer kind of person. Or like, I hate to call what is it? What is it? That, like, there was something that I used, like, I call him my ex. But he was like that. He was like, oh yeah, like, I don't want to call it gaslighting, but manipulative, so that way they can like get your love and like buy your love in a sense, and have that camaraderie. What is the word that I'm looking for? It's like eluding me right now.
Yeah,
But absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
a
financially
con artist.
manipulative.
That's what it is. A con artist.
Yeah. Scumbag.
Well, that's the thing. You don't know where this stuff produces from. And it's just like, luckily for No Face, he's a monster, but at the same time, this is a really dangerous monster we see in the end. And it's just like, yeah, con artists are basically the same kind of person, where it's just like, hey, I got all this gold, like, come on, let's be buddy buddy, like, you're gonna like me now. And it's like, no, I really don't need that, like, it's cool. But it's like, but I got what they want, why don't you want what they want? It's like, because I don't want that. So then they keep trying harder. That's what I felt with No Face until like Chihiro really grows up and is like, no, like, you got to stop being like that if you want to be like a better person like myself. Because I feel like that's what some people are like, with especially like my ex, who I call the con artist, because he actually did do a lot of bad things and kept people around him who were just like sucking up to him and kissing his ass, and it's like, oh, he's so cool, blah 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 blah. But it's like, no, he's not. Like, he gets these things because of these things, but he's also making you pay. Like, it's not good. It's very scrappy, it's scammery. And Shakira is just not one of those like people that needs that. She wants to save her family. She's got a different goal. So yeah, No Face, I think, is a very interesting kind of character, because he wasn't even welcome to the bathhouse to begin with. So that one was like really tricky in a situation for having that character come in, because it's just like, how did we know that they're not allowed in until like they tell us later? It's just like, but this is a bathhouse. Like, are they quote unquote racial profiling spirits now? Like, what the hell? But we do hear Lynn, who is voiced by Wendy Lee, aka Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop, I believe. Let me double check that. Let me double check if I'm correct with that.
I saw in the English version she's actually voiced by Davy Chase, which was I thought was pretty interesting. Davy Chase was in Donnie Darko as the younger sister.
Was she in it? Hold on, let me see. That's gonna bother me. I could have sworn she was in it. Was that her voice? Oh my god!
For the English dub, yeah. I mean, I watched the Japanese dub first, and I watched the English dub second.
She wasn't the voice of Spirited Away. Who the fuck did that? That's gonna bother me. I thought it was the same. I thought it was the same person.
For the Japanese dub.
Oh, dang it! I was wrong. It was Susan Egan. Shit. Yes, Susan.
Wait, for the
Egan. So who are you? Who did you do?
Chihiro
oh my god!
Voiced by Rumi Hiragi. Wait, what?
You want to know something funny?
What's that?
Okay, so she's the voice of Lynn in the 2002 Spirited Away.
You said Lynn, my bad. I was looking at Chihiro.
Yeah. But she's also the voice of Belle from Beauty and the Beast, and the voice of Megara in Hercules. Full circle.
Okay. That's a cool thing about voice actors. Like, they're not always the most famous people. A lot of times, their names most people won't recognize. but they could do so many different characters in so many movies that you would have seen, and you'd have no idea who it is most of the time, you know. And it's really cool when you look at somebody's like, you know, IMDb profile, and you're like, oh, the same person who did this voice did this other character, and it's just like massively different characters, you know. So yeah, voice actors are
Right?
kind of underrated in my opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's definitely a few out there that have gotten their flowers, but a lot of times voice actors could be underrated. So yeah, big up voice actors out there,
They're
they do a
definitely the
lot.
most underrated part of acting. I feel like they don't give enough credit to that because, like, I seriously thought it was the voice of Faye Valentine. Each time she talked, I was like, oh, that sounds like Faye Valentine. No, it's a different bitch. Okay, hold on. My
Yeah.
dogs are like going insane. Let me go check if there's someone at the door.
All right, no
I don't know
worries.
why.
So while Celeste is checking on the puppies, um, yeah, let me just ramble a little bit about Spreads the Way. But yeah, voice actors, yeah, big up voice actors. And what was we talking about again? So yeah, like consumerism, capitalism. You know, I think I guess the more obvious part of that is, you know, how the parents, you know, when they saw the food, they just kind of started eating. They weren't really giving much thought to, you know, who it belonged to, whether they even had permission to be having it or anything like that. It just kind of just started eating it, and they were kind of punished for that in a manner of speaking, about being turned into pigs. Um, and then you have Chihiro, who spends the movie trying to get them back, and she has to maintain this idea of why she's doing this all along, which is to save her parents. So every time she was offered something from No Face, was like, no, it's not what I'm here about. It's not what I'm here for. You know, she doesn't need the gold. She doesn't need all that. She just wants to save her parents. And even down to the getting the medicine, you know, when she saw that No Face was causing so much havoc, and she was like, I was saving this for my parents, but I guess you need this as well. And it's almost like a sacrificial
Apparently, my neighbors
motion.
came home and it's causing them to bark out the window like crazy because they're just like, hey, love me.
All
Hey.
right, Z.
I'm like, okay. They don't need that.
They're okay now.
Sorry.
That's all right.
And
I was just trying to keep the chat going. But I was just
yeah.
saying while you're away that in line with sort of consumerism and capitalism, with Chihiro and her character, you know, being this person who can't be bought, and the whole thing about her being there was, you know, trying to save her parents. And one of the things that she does, which I thought was really interesting and really cool, is that she had the medicine that she used for Haku when he got sick. And she also had some that she was saving for her parents. But then when No Face was causing all that havoc, and she gives it to him instead, you know, at that point she was like, I was saving this for my parents, but I guess you need this as well. And at that point, it's kind of almost like a sacrificial thing where she's there for her parents, but also she's looking at it in this moment, you know, she needs to help these guys out as well, because like No Face has just caused so much havoc, swallowing people, causing damage and things like that. So there's almost like a sacrificial type thing where she's not quite giving up, but seeing what she needs to do in that moment by giving No Face the medicine. And then of course, you know, he comes back, and then she has to go to see Zeniba, Yubaba's twin sister, to help further. But yeah, it just kind of speaks to Chihiro's character in that, you know, she wasn't trying to be bought by No Face. She was there to save her parents, but also she's looking out for the people as well by saying, you know, I can't leave them like this. I can't just save this for my parents and have this guy just be here causing all this havoc. She had to do something. And so like, yeah, that I felt like that was that about that this idea of sacrificing something that you were there for, even though of course she does get her parents back in the end, and we see that, but in that moment she doesn't know that. It's just trying to save, you know, this place.
Yes. In that essence, she knows that. I think in a different set in a not a different way, but you could say it more in the sense of like she realizes that she let No Face in and it was her fault, so she wants to help
Mm.
No Face not be so bad anymore to the bathhouse, which has treated her like not the best, but she has realized like she got a place to stay. She was eating there, And she didn't know like that was bad for this character to be in the bathhouse either.
Mm,
So if she helped him to get out of the bathhouse, ultimately that would have like redone her debt of making him come in the first place. Which kind of sucks because No Face sniffed her out before she like gave up across the bridge, and she couldn't hold her breath across the bridge because she's a kid. And then at the end, she can cross the bridge not even looking back because she matured. Again,
mm,
spoiler.
yeah. Well, we're in that section and we're all good.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, with oh, I had something on my mind. I completely forgot. My bad. Um, oh yeah, that was it. That was it. That was it. So yeah, with the bathhouse and Yubaba, and following the story, it's kind of like shown that Yubaba is, I guess, the quote was it quote unquote, as people say. It's kind of effectively Yubaba is the bad guy, right, for lack of a better term. But and yeah, she's not exactly a nice person, to be fair, but she's also, I mean, I kind of felt watching that movie, she's not that bad. I mean, it seems like there was stuff happening before the movie started between her and Zenitha, and of course, her and Zenitha don't really get along. And supposedly, Yubaba put a spell on Haku to keep him in line, and she steals, well, she doesn't really steal. They describe it as stealing Chihiro's name. I don't know if she really stole it though. I mean, end of the day, Chihiro asks for a job. It's like, it's what you're gonna do
I
is work
think
the
it's like
spirits.
an
But
equivalent
like,
exchange, but um, the thing is, when she takes Chihiro's name and creates it just to send, she's erasing her identity and then forcing her childhood away in a sense of her like too mature. And that's the coming of age part of like, okay, you work here now. You can't be this person that you were before. You have to be someone that I mold you into now because
hmm,
you're under me, kind of thing, which I think is a common trope with Japanese culture. Not to say common, but that happens with like geishas and maikos. So at a certain point, you have a coming of age debut, so to speak, like you become a debutante or your quinceañera, quote unquote, where you slowly turn into like a pure entertainer. But you no longer have your old name, and your house mama, they give you a new name, and then you transition, like
mm-hmm.
transition. So then you go to different restaurants, houses, and then you debut as your new name. So that that I think is interesting that they have that kind of tie-in with Japanese culture. But in this sense, they're using it as a negative connotation because she's in the spirit world. So because Chihiro is still alive as a human in the spirit world, if she loses her name, she could never go back to the land of the living. That's why
Mm.
it's important that she has this equivalent exchange. And that's why later Haku learns that he's like the big river that she was in before, and his
Mm.
spirit, river spirit, saved her. And that's why she's like, I know who you are, and you can be
Yeah,
free now.
except
And so
Kahoku can't
that's,
go home.
yeah, exactly. Kind of like
Kahoku can never
that
go
one
home.
dirty spirit. It wasn't a stink spirit at all. It was another river spirit, and that's why it was really important. Because then at that point too, we see so much consumerism of like human waste and how she pulls the bicycle out, and then there's like a fishing rod at the very end, and she unplugs it,
Ah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
then
yeah.
like that's a huge scene of just like pollution from human overconsumption.
Yeah, that's, yeah, I'm just thinking about it now because I didn't even clock that. But yes, everything that got thrown into the river that made that spirit, well, ill, not what, maybe not ill, but certainly dirty, and he looked like they thought it was a stink spirit, but it was a stink spirit, but it was more that he's just been so polluted with the bicycles and the junk and the toilets. Now, if you see all kinds of stuff that got clogged up in there, when you pull that, and finally, when it came out, it was like now you could go back to being a clean river. But I guess metaphor's not the right word to use, but I guess the thing is that not everybody or not every
More
river gets
allegory.
to get clean again, right? Because maybe they just get mistaken for stink spirits, so they just get left alone. So yeah, I guess there is a that analogy of pollution and environmental issues in there as well, or even with Kohaku, the fact that he can't go home because Chihiro says that the river that he was has been built over,
Yep.
so he could never go home because his home doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. He's just there in this spirit world. His only saving grace is that he remembers who he is, but he can never go home anymore.
Right.
So yeah, I guess that's that whole kind of environmental aspect to it as well. Of don't throw crap in your rivers.
Yeah, and Ghibli plays, or Hayao plays with that theme a lot in some of his movies. One of them being is Nausicaa of the Wind. And in Nausicaa, he attacks it in a better sense of, oh, just because we change the environment and do the nerdy dirty and like destroy it, there will be a way for the environment to grow back. Like how dilapidated buildings will have lots of growth on top, and then wildlife will return. At a certain point, it will, but it's just like we should treat it with more respect, is what he's saying with
Mm,
a lot of those metaphors or allegories. So
mm,
it wasn't a huge like kind of topic that they have, but it is something that he does put into his stories.
mm. Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, with Haku, in particular, like oh, jeez, you have something in your mind and it just like slips the moment you about to say it.
Well, I mean,
anyway,
Haku
anyway,
Haku went to Yubaba for trying to like, I don't know. They say that he went to her to learn sorcery, and maybe it
yeah,
was to like try to become clean or try to destroy the dam. But instead, she ends up possessing him, and that's why later, when Chihiro gives him the medicine, he throws up the slug with the little gold witch
mm-hmm.
seal, and it's just like, well, she never had intended to give him like sorcery powers to be able to do something. It's just like, nope, not gonna happen, bro.
Mm,
So she knew, she's like, oh, there's a powerful dragon. I'm gonna use him to blah, 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 blah. And that's the type of woman she is. She is a someone who will take advantage of the situation for her own good, like for her own deeds.
yeah,
And it's just like the only one that she cares about is herself and her son. But as we see later, she didn't even realize that her son was missing until Haku pointed it out.
yeah. She bit self-absorbed, and I mean, the thing that you Barbara, I guess, is that a lot of what she's done or did or doing is more implied, so we go by what Zinaba said about, Yubaba placed uh the 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 slug thing inside Haku to, control him. Yubaba but stole his name and made, Haku her henchman. We're told this. But I just feel like in terms of what we see of Yubaba, I mean, like I say, she's clearly not a nice person, but she seems more like an asshole type boss more than, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like she seems like the asshole boss, which is not good, right? But
No.
it just feels to me that perhaps there's more to it because it feels like between her and Zena, but there's clearly a history there that is implied that they don't get along, and because of that, it's also, well, how can we be sure Zenaba's telling the truth either? So I just feel like for me with Yubaba, it's clear she's not a good person, or she's clearly not a nice person, certainly not to her staff. As she seemingly very somewhat self-absorbed, but is she really as bad as Zenaba makes her out to be, or as this whole idea makes her out to be, or is that more like, just disgruntled employees, just saying stuff? You know what I mean? Like Because
Yeah,
if you're a
exactly.
pissed off employee, you might say stuff about your boss that isn't exactly true. And although, yeah, your boss might not be a nice person, but are they really that bad? And that's kind of how I feel about you, Barbara. Like, yeah, she's somewhat of an asshole, but is she really as bad as they make her out to be? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Because you kind of have like this capitalist asshole who's in it to make money for themselves and keep their
Mm,
business going. But at the same time, it's just like she's not. She did. She was there after they or the entire team got the sludge out of the river spirit that's really famous. She gave everyone sake on the house, so she's not
yeah,
completely heartless. But at the same time, she doesn't treat you well either. So she knows when something right has gone well, and if something bad has gone wrong, someone's going to be the butt end of it. And she's like, yeah, if they're worthless to me, I'm just going to turn them into a pig or I'm going to turn them into ashes because you're in my way and you're inhibiting my production or my growth of funds. And that's
mm,
just a very capitalist mindset, especially because there's so many like ways of capitalism. I hate to say it like this, would just be like, oh, okay, like we just did this. Oh, but this part of the company's not making enough money, so we're just gonna lay them all off. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
That's kind of the same concept of Yubaba, of like, oh, I'm in it for the money, and I don't care how I treat you guys. Just come in, do your job, and go away. And if you don't make me enough money, I'm just gonna cut your division, and you all are gonna now turn into pigs, and we're gonna use you for food.
yeah,
Like, I think that's basically how it's being portrayed, and I was like kind of reading up on like the themes of it, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. It's very capitalist. It's very sad in a sense, but it's true, and especially hits hard with the tech industry. Like everyone wants to be nice to each other, but unfortunately, you can't just be like, it'd be really nice for you to finish coding this by tomorrow, and if you don't, I'm just gonna have to put that on your written review that you can't get shit done. Like
mm, yeah,
that's just kind of like how it is. And when it comes time to have layoffs, it's like, oh yeah, I see here on your file that you didn't get your shit done, so we're gonna fire you.
yeah,
Again,
yeah.
capitalist mindset.
Yeah, I
So
think there's a lot of that
it
happening
is
in the game industry right now, but it seems as well. In fact, it's not even new in the game industry. Like it's been going on for a while, but there's definitely been, I believe, some recent examples of companies just
it's
laying off
been
like
hitting so
hundreds of
hard this
people or
year.
whatever, loads of people at a time. So
It's really sad too because like these people actually put in time and effort to make the game, to bring stories to life, or even delivering a good product. And then at the end of the day, you
mm,
just toss them aside again with the
yeah,
consumerism kind of idea of, yes, we're using this person's labor, we're paying them for it. Oh, but we don't need them anymore, so we're tossing you aside.
yeah,
So it's really sad in that cycle, and that's why like the whole idea of consumerism with capitalism really played a huge role in this, on top of this girl trying to become not a savior, but for her to grow up. Because when we first see her, she's like in the car, lackadaisical, no energy, really pissed off that they're moving her to a rural town
mm,
and they had to go shopping in the next town over. So that's how rural we're talking about. We're talking about like town bumpkin little thing, and they're coming from the city, and she's a little spoiled girl from the city. But then, through her journey through the bathhouse to Zenny Baba's, she actually learned a lot of like manners, work ethic, how to help people. And that's not really easy in this day and age to
mm,
see that kind of progression in young adolescents. Because a lot of them are just like, I'm gonna be a TikTok star. Look at me. Ah, I'm doing dancing things. Woo, woo, doo, doo, doo. I'm just like, look, you're gonna get tired of doing that, and you're gonna get burnt out, and then you have nothing to fall back on because you didn't even plan.
excuse me, sorry.
Bless you.
Oof,
You didn't
thanks.
plan on going on getting a degree, and that honestly is what's terrifying about our next generation. But that's why we have stories like Spirited Away.
Well, to be fair, Spirits Away was made in 2001, and I imagine the production process would have been a few years before that. If Spirited Away was being made now in 2024, I mean, it would be, well, I mean, it would be different, of course, but in terms of like, okay, this is way before TikTok and pretty much before a lot of social media kicks off. I mean, I think at the time it would have been MySpace, um,
Oh my.
or I think maybe Facebook might have been around in its early stages around that sort of
MySpace.
time as well. But certainly they wouldn't have been in that stage where they were affecting movies, right? So if you have a movie like Spirits Away being made in 2024 after TikTok, after Instagram, after social media's rise and everything that's done into society, I mean, how do you think that affects a character like Chihiro? Does she still learn about work ethic? Does she still want to save her parents? Does she still not care about getting the gold? You know, and or how do you think that affects her?
I think it would be really strange, only because like, what if she wasn't even allowed to have social media? Like, I don't know what it's like in Japan to be a kid, but it's just like I can't relate of like just having to grow up and like start to work or something like that. Because when I was younger, I actually started babysitting at like the age of 13. So it's like I kind of had to be both a big sister and like a caretaker role at once. So it's like, okay, let's have dinner now. Okay, let's go brush our teeth. And it really makes you grow up when you have to assume these kind of responsibilities when they're like, oh yeah, we need a babysitter. And it's like, okay. So I don't think that would be the same if they were going to try to implement some kind of like social media aspect to it, because that would really change how how the story would even progress, because this is in the rural town, and then they go through like a destroyed amusement park. So that's kind of like the gateway to the Spirited Away,
Hmm.
like, I guess, Deadland. Like, I don't know how to call it, but the land of the unliving. Land of the
Hmm.
spirits,
Yeah,
maybe.
the Spirit Bathhouse. Speaking
So,
of the bathhouse, actually. Oh wait, sorry,
mhm.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, 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 that's basically it.
Ah, okay, cool. So one thing I noticed, I don't think I understood why this was, but I noticed like the word oil um will come up a few times. So as you're watching a movie, there'd be just like various like signs that say oil on it, and I was kind of wondering what is that about? Like, I mean, to my mind, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's a reason for it. Like, I don't believe these things are just happenstance. I mean, and being a bathhouse, I mean, I don't know much about bathhouses, but I'm not sure they need that much oil, or I don't know, do they? But yeah, it's something I
Well,
noticed is that the word oil will come up in various places. A sign for oil will come up in various
mhm.
places, and I was kind of wondering, like, do you have a thought into why that might be?
So there's a few different things that I know. One of them's not coming to my brain because I know Tsunade from Naruto, one of the Sanin legendary like three ninjas. She has it on her back, but she uses it for something else. But for them to use oil, it's because back in the day, people used to cleanse themselves with special oils and fragrances. So you would have to use like flowers and then soak it in oils to get the scent to come onto your skin. And then,
Oh, okay.
that's kind of like a bathhouse thing. Kind of like you could still go to like Rituals. It's a chain franchise store, like not a franchise, but like a store where you can go in and get like bath scrubs. But the bath scrubs don't work as well unless you use oil. How do I know that? Because whenever I use a bath scrub on my nice legs or like lotions, it's an oil based kind of thing. So
Oh, you know what?
it's like a cleaning agent.
I
Yeah.
was thinking of oil like in petrol, and that's probably why I guess I got so confused. That's because when I see oil, I'm thinking like petrol, like petroleum, that kind of thing.
You're not
I guess it was
wrong,
more
but they
oil,
use
as in like,
coal.
yeah, like oils for. Okay, okay, that makes more sense. I was thinking of a different type of oil, I guess. I just confused myself. Okay, cool. That makes more sense. Black bath oils and various kind of oils like
Yeah,
okay.
perfume
Okay.
oil.
Yep. Wow.
Okay.
One of them ones.
We have explored that one.
Indeed. But yeah, just kind of thinking though about sort of like the modern day sort of social media aspects of like a film like Spiritual the way and how that kind of affects things or in particular character like Chihiro, and I feel like you can still have a person like that in the modern world where they're not kind of too impressed with the celebrity or the fame and what I can get, and I feel there are still people like that. So I'm not sure like it necessarily affects the character so much if you used to make Spirits Away now, but you are talking about, I guess, a very particular type of person, and I do believe that person still exists, but yeah, maybe not as many people like that, where because I think a lot of us more than we realize are kind of ties to this idea of things you can get. Like we all do things and we maybe start out with good intentions, but when we see the results or some of the results of that, we kind of maybe get a bit distracted. Oh, I can get this, I can get that, or I didn't realize I can maybe make a little money here, or I can get a little bit of fame. I feel we all can get a little bit distracted by some of the material gains or the things that we do. So like a person like Chihiro in the modern world, I do believe that person still exists, but I feel like that person is more and more of a unicorn, these days, in the sense that they are very, very rare. I mean, I even would include myself in that. Like if I was in a situation where you're trying to save people that you care about, but then you got somebody offering you all kinds of like gold and stuff, I might be a little bit tempted myself. I ain't gonna lie. I might be
I
like,
don't know. I
I
don't know
might, I
where
might
that
be a
came
little,
from. Like I'm like if someone okay, here, let me give you a situation and you need to answer it. If
All right.
someone messages you today on Instagram and says, I have so much Bitcoin, I just want you to comment on every single photo. And what if it like you have to positively comment and
Okay.
love me through each like thing, and they're posting very, very bad things that goes against the terms of service. And would you take that? Would you take the Bitcoin for supporting this very negative account?
To be honest, Bitcoin, I think I could turn down Bitcoin. I've never really cared
Okay.
much for Bitcoin. I mean, I know it could be worth a lot of money. I get that, but honestly, I've never really been that in. I actually do have some Bitcoin. I've got like £5 worth of Bitcoin somewhere. I should probably check on it.
Okay.
Actually, I bought it years ago. I literally like it's
It
going to be like
starts
three,
at
4 years ago. I
£50,000
bought it. I've
now.
not
It's
checked on
with
it. It
compounded
might
interest.
it might be worth like £5.50 by now. I should probably check on it.
Oh wow.
Um, but yeah, I've never really cared for Bitcoin. I think I could be tempted though. That's not to say I can't be tempted. I think I can be tempted. I mean, ideally, I think I want to say no. You can never buy me. I feel that's the right answer. You can never pay me off to write things I don't believe about anything. But I think the truth is, if I'm going to be really honest, certain things can tempt me, but I don't think it'd be Bitcoin. It won't be Bitcoin. It might be like
Okay.
maybe
Okay.
cheesecake.
So you can eventually be bought if it is the right currency and value.
Yeah, I think if it depends on what it is. Like you'd have to be something like if you just said to me like, here's £100, I could turn on £100. I could probably turn down maybe even £1,000. Couple of million.
Okay.
Now it
So
might
what
be
if
like,
it's someone? Okay. So we're going to
now we're like,
explore
okay,
this topic, ladies and
well,
gentlemen,
maybe.
and others in between. We're going to see how far we can push Boomy today. All
what's
right.
my price? What's my price?
Okay. So your price is, let's start slow. We'll say £50, and you have to comment and like and share because that's like 5 seconds each, and like
Yeah.
it's fast. Um, this account has, let's say, 10 posts of owners kicking puppies.
Yeah, and I could turn down £50. No,
Okay.
I'm no, not
You would
kicking
do that?
puppies.
Okay.
No, not if
So
I'll take £50 if it was something like that had a bunch of crappy things, but it was things that maybe weren't that big a deal. Like, I don't know, maybe they had like some, I don't know, it was like an iPhone or something, and they were like, "Oh, the iPhone's great," and I was like, "Okay, well, I'll say the iPhone's great." Actually, no,
Oh, I
what?
guess
No, no,
I'm
no,
going
no,
so
50,
hardcore.
no. I can't, not for 50. If you
Wow,
could,
that's the base of
actually, no,
like, oh, this is
I'd want more than
bad.
£50 to say the
Yes, it
iPhone's
is.
great.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so
need more
let's
£50
say,
to say the iPhone's great. Actually, I need much. No, I'm thinking about it now. No, I can't say 50, not for £50. I'll need more than that. But anyway, but yeah, kicking
okay,
puppies. No, not for £50. No, no, no,
okay, let's
no. We're not kicking.
say,
No.
okay, we're going to go a little bit harder here, and if this gets you demonetized, I'm sorry. No, okay, let's say 200 pounds, and they want to burn all religious types of media. So that's the Quran, that's the Bible, anything else that I'm missing. They want to just eradicate religious, like, these are people's values,
Yeah.
these are their morals. And like, I don't know what your religious sect is, or if you have any, or even like the Satanist Bible, but they're just going to start burning all of that. For 200 pounds, you have to like, share, and stay positive and be like, yeah, this is the best for humanity, like we should get rid of all religion.
Yeah, not for £200.
No.
You know
Okay,
what?
that's
Yeah.
moral.
So here's the thing though about whenever you see people like burning like the Quran or the Bible or any kind of religious books like that. One of the things that I kind of think of is that you're burning a book, but the religion isn't the book. The book is just like it just has the rules and of the religion, but you're not getting rid of the religion. You're just burning a piece of paper, really, effectively. And although that's a symbolic, of course, and there's a whole thing about what it says about your views and opinions of the religion itself, ultimately you're just burning paper. You're just
Right.
burning paper. So to me, it's kind of like, I mean, you can do it if you want to, but you're not really changing anything. You know what I mean?
You're
Like,
changing the environment
yeah,
because you're adding more carbon.
Oh, yeah. Apart from that,
Yeah.
but you're not changing. Like, you're not getting rid of religion by burning a book. Like, if you took
How much
every
is
single
that? Is
religious
that
book in the world and
200?
burnt them, the religion still exists. You know what I mean? So it's like
Okay.
you can do that. You'd have to buy all the books first. So I guess that gives money to these religious organizations, and they could just print more books. So
That's true.
there you go. But
Okay.
no, not for £200. Not for £200. No, that's no. I'm
200
not that
pounds.
hard up. That's
Okay.
the slow. Come on, come on,
We
come on,
haven't fought
come on.
Bandit today, ladies and gentlemen, and those in between. Let's see. Okay. For 1,000 pounds, would you? Look, I'm trying to think of something like crazy. For 1,000 pounds, would you support a anti-LGBTQ plus, and this is 1,000 account?
For £1,000. Wait,
Yeah.
wait, wait. How anti LGBT are they though? Like, I mean, we talking like violent, or we talking just like, oh, they're just a bit cheeky?
Um, let's go with more along the lines of like, I don't want it to be violent. Like this
All
one,
right,
this one's not violent because the
all
last
right,
two have
okay.
been violent. So let's just say this one is like about more towards preventing those from transitioning, taking hormones, saying that people aren't born gay. It's just like, oh yeah, you were converted to be gay kind of people. And they're like, no, you can convert back. And like, more people that spout stuff that
Yeah,
haven't
yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
been
Okay, I see
in
it,
their
man.
shoes. More bigotry is the term I
um,
think I'm going for.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
A
The
thousand
thing
pounds.
is, £1,000 worth. I feel like all the heat you'd have to deal with afterwards. I'm not sure £1,000 is going to be worth it. I need more than
Oh,
a
look at
thousand
that.
pounds for
You're a
that.
high roller.
I need more than £1,000 because I mean you got to think about like the aftermath as well because like you're gonna have to deal with all the angry emails and the messages and people like DM you and oh how can you do this? How can you say that? You're gonna have to deal with all that for potentially a long time. And it may be that you can't work nowhere because people like get to your job places and stuff like that. So I'm gonna need the kind of money where I don't even have to worry about work ever again if I'm gonna do
Oh,
something like
yeah.
that. I
That's
need that
fair.
kind of money.
And
I
just for
need,
those
yeah.
watching this podcast, no, we are very LGBTQ plus positive people. We are in the team of, if you guys are being repressed and you are being attacked and not happy, we are going to be there fighting with you. We support you. Everyone should be allowed to love who they want. Everyone should be allowed to be the person that they want to be, as long as you don't harm others. Yeah, I'm looking at you, serial killers. Eating
Yeah.
Captain Crunch is fine, but murdering people is off the table.
Well, just for clarity, Celeste would be there supporting you. I'm going to need some money first.
A lot of money,
I'm
apparently.
gonna need you to pay me to support. I'm playing. I'm playing.
But
I'm playing. Um, but yeah, I
but I'm
feel
just
like
making a disclaimer for anyone
yeah.
that this is all hypothetical situations on seeing where it will hold himself with money. And apparently he doesn't do things for cheap. He can pass on the 50 to 1,000 pounds. So yeah, you gotta produce some serious coin.
Indeed, indeed.
Oh, wait, 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 wait,
Um,
wait. Here's a quick and easy one.
all right, all
For
right.
for let's say 1,500, you need to support a like basically pornographic channel. And I mean, this chick is basically just wearing, well, this person, I don't know. This person is basically like tongue out, got some sex toys all over the place in some of the posts. It's not violating the terms of service because apparently, like, you can do some shit on the app now. And I've reported it, and they're like, "Oh, well, you can just block the sexual content. We'll still allow it." I'm like, "Wow, all right." And this is Instagram, by the way. I'm not talking
All right.
about Facebook. I'm not talking about X, because on X you can totally see sex. You can totally see. I've seen a guy suck his own dick on X, and that's when I realized I'm not using this app anymore. It was like the most wild thing. I'm like, how did I get here? And I did get there, and I'm like, I'm good. Thank you for
Yeah, you
existing.
found on the wrong side of the internet with that one. How,
It was
bro?
it
I don't
was
even want to know how
something.
you
They
did
are
that. I don't even want to
asexual
know.
for themselves. They are proud about it. He's just, that person is living their best life doing what he wants to do. And I'm not going to tell him not to. He's not hurting anyone. I have scarred myself by finding this person. But will you take the 1,200 pounds to support a super pornographic channel?
um, uh, I mean, if it's within the terms of service for the platform, I might consider it. But also because I'm not really like watching porn anymore. Like that, my porn watching days are
Anymore.
long. Yeah, long in the past now. You know, long in the past. So I'm not really in, that kind of stuff. I mean, on one hand, it's like, you do you. You know what I mean? That's your business. It's not for me. Whatever. I mean, at my age, I
But
ain't trying to
they're
watch no porn.
paying
Yeah,
you to comment,
but
like,
yeah,
and
if it's
share.
like, yeah, I think I might still turn that down actually. For I mean, I might
Wow.
need. I think I need not for 1,500. I think I might need at least probably at least like 10, 15 grand. I think.
You are not. All
10,
right.
15,
So we
10,
had
15
to.
grand. I might consider a bit more, but 1,000. Nah,
That's
that's a bit
hilarious.
low. That's a bit low.
See,
That's a
look
bit
at
low.
this. We're learning that he just wants 5-digit range, and then he'll comment on anything, reshare.
Wow, most things. Not anything.
Getting off topic.
So I'll ask you the
But
same
yeah,
question. So
you are
shall we
not
just
a no
move on?
face. Yeah, I don't think no face could tempt you then, because if you look at all the amount of gold that he had, it wasn't that much compared
Yeah.
to what people were thinking.
Yeah, I mean, with the gold that No Face had, I mean, I guess it's like equivalent values as well. Like they're in a spirit world, and we kind of assume, I guess, gold to them it is seemingly worth a lot, right? Well, real gold, I have to assume is worth a lot because again, it turned out to be fake gold anyway. But the way they were kind of reacting to it, we have to assume that gold is more than just things you use to buy stuff with, because like I mean, for one thing, they're in the spirit world, right? So currency, I kind of assuming works differently just anyway. So although we're looking at it like, oh, it's gold and da da da, and perhaps that's how Chihiro looks at it as well, it's just gold. I don't care about this because she's coming for human mentality of yeah, gold has its value in the human world, but ultimately it's not value that means anything to her. Perhaps in the spirit world, gold is more than just a currency, and perhaps it's something that the film didn't necessarily dive into. But there is a value to the gold in the spirit world that is more than just something that you use to buy things with, or just you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Because we don't know what would happen if she were to bring back gold from the spirit world. The only thing that she does bring back is from Zeniba and No Face and the little baby and the bird person. We don't actually know who bird person is, so bird person is just going to be bird person. It's a little witch
Yeah,
person that gets turned into super mega witch, like little bird
yeah,
person. Anyways, um, at the end she gets to keep her hair tie.
yeah. On Zerba did say something about the hair tie, like it would help you do something. What did she say it would do? It would
I don't
help
remember.
you. Yeah. Oh, what she? It would say if you put this on, it would help you. Oh, flipping out, forgot. But yeah, it was supposed to help her do something. Flipping out. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Oh well. Oh well. Oh
Let's
well.
see. Can we look it
What
up
did the
really
hair
quick?
tie do? Let me see if we can find out. Go to go to Google.
Here we go. Hair ties. It's a protective talisman. Chihiro continues to wear the hairband after she has already left the spirit realm through the red gate. The hairband makes it clear that her experiences in the spirit realm must have been more than just a dream. That's it.
Oh, so she
So
can't remember,
it's
and
just a
yeah,
reaffirmation that you did go through that growth phase in spirit land.
yeah. And I guess that helps her in the bit where she's back in the human world as well. Or supposedly helps her. Um, even though her parents remember nothing from it.
Yeah, they don't remember shit. They don't remember becoming big fat pigs. God, that's so gross. When she goes back to them. Oh my god. I was just thinking about that, like how scary it must be to be like a 12-year-old and then your parents turn around and they're giant ham hocks. I'm just like, oh my god, my son would be terrified. I'd be terrified. I'm already as big as I can be. I will not. After watching Physical 100, I'm so inspired. I'm like, I need to work out with my children. I need to run more. I've been actually walking more. So
Walking
we'll
is
see
a good
how it goes.
exercise, actually. I know
It
this
is
is
hard.
like way off topic, but walking is one of the most underrated exercises, and it's something that most people can do. And it's a really good exercise to have. So I know we're talking my spirits away right now, but just real quick for anybody out there who's trying to like be healthier or just get more activity in their day. Walking, like literally, like it's something you can do. You don't need to put no special clothes for it. You don't need no special equipment for it. You can literally just walk anywhere, few minutes here, few minutes there, a few extra steps. It's such a good exercise to do. So yeah, walking's good.
Exactly.
I won't tell this is a fitness
Interesting
podcast,
too.
but walking is a good exercise to do.
Yes. We're advocates for walking. Would you take 10 quid for a walking Instagram channel?
Oh yeah, yeah, I'll take 10 quid. I mean, I'll try and get
We
more
lost
if I can.
it!
But
We
yeah, 10 quid
did it!
to promote walking. I mean, if I can get more, even better. But yeah, I have no problem taking 10 quid to promote walking. I'm good with that.
That's
I'm good with
nice.
that.
It
Walk
sounds
more.
fun,
Give me
but
money.
I'm
Give me
just
money.
like, yeah, it's that
Uh,
easy. Have a channel on grass, pay him 5 quid. Well, I meant like actual grass, long grass. It's okay. Make sure to start out
yeah.
with seeds. That's what gets them.
Oh yeah, start with seeds. Plant your seeds. Water them. Look after them. Planting is
Yeah.
good.
But the one thing that really, really like grows for Chihiro is when she had to go down the first flight of stairs at the bathhouse to get to the water guy, spider arm guy. She was
Right. Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
terrified of going down the stairs because there's like no handrail. Honestly, I can't go downstairs without a handrail anymore. I'm too afraid that I'll fall and hurt my baby inside me. And then normally I have a baby on my arm anyway, so I don't want to fall and like have my baby splat on the ground. So That's why I always try to hold on to a handrail. Um, but she goes down like one step at a time, and she's like
Mm.
crawling down because she was so scared. And then towards the end, when she's trying to save Haku, you can see her running across a gutter pipe to a ladder, and it's just like she's so shown so much courage and
Mm.
become brave in that essence. So
For
yeah,
sure.
Chihiro
And
goes through a lot of growth.
I think there's a lot to be said about being in the moment with these sorts of things as well. Like, the whole kind of adrenaline thing as well, where if you think about something and you realize you can think about how scary it is or how dangerous it is, or maybe how much of a bad idea it is, and then you're very apprehensive about it. But when you're in that kind of mindset of, oh, I need to do this right now, and you're not really thinking about the danger of running across a pipe, you just kind of just run, because in that moment, it's just like, I got to save, how I got to, that's the driving factor. So I feel like there's a lot to be said about, just being in a moment of elevated an emotional state where you're just not thinking about the potential danger. If I miss a step, if I fall off, I've never run across a pipe before, but you just know you need to get to the other side. Like you just need to get to the other side. So you just move in and you just don't stop because you're in that kind of mindset of just go, go, go.
Yeah, that adrenaline pumping. Like if I don't get to him before someone else does, he could die kind of
Mm.
situation. And like Haku was the first person to like save her because she was starting to disappear. And without Haku, she would have actually become a real spirit.
Yeah, he gave her the food, the pill. I was like, yeah, this will stop you from disappearing. See,
It's just a little
see.
pill. I'm like, is it a gumball? Did you make her choke on some gum?
Yeah, he gave her some drugs. What was it saying
I
about films with drugs again?
We're not about that on this channel.
Gave her some. Like, yeah, take this, you'll be fine. Gave her a roofie or something. I don't know. We have no idea.
No! She is a 12-year-old. We are not about this on this channel, mister.
I'm just saying.
I may not be the host, but I am making sure it is correct things.
All right, cool. We'll rein it in. We'll rein it in. Right.
Mister, it's okay to burn religious items.
Misquoting. That's how you get misquoted on the internet.
Hypothetical situation.
Be careful what you say out there.
It's not enough money, but you can do what you
want. So let's talk a little bit about Haku though, because of course he's one of the main characters in the movie, and like you say, he's the one that saves Chihiro in the beginning by giving her the pill, and helps her out throughout. But there are also, some scenes where it seems like he's a bit off, like in the beginning where he says something like, don't address me as this, I'm something, and he's just kind of being very kind of standoffish with and to the point where Chihiro was kind of like, are there two Hakus, like, because he was so different at different times. What's your view on Haku's character and throughout the film and his development?
So I think Haku subconsciously remembers saving Chihiro when she was younger and like didn't drown in the river. But at the same time, because he's like Yubaba's like right hand henchman dude, he needs to put up a front. That's why he's like, oh, I gotta be like this guy. I'm not your friend. Like, some people do that so they can be like, oh yeah, I gotta save face and make sure I'm still that top dog that no one messes with me and I get my way despite being like this person's lackey. Because, like, in essence, he's still an employee of the bathhouse. That doesn't make him better than everyone else, but he made himself appear more important than everyone else. That's why they respect him. Because the water guy that's like handing out the bath tokens, he wants to be respected like everyone else, but no one really does that. Like they just kind of fall in line anyways because Yubaba's like that person. So for him to be that kind of guy in front of Chihiro, it makes sense because it's just like, okay, when it's just us together, it's like I can finally be just myself versus I have to put on a front when it's at like with my coworkers because I need to be the stronger individual and that way they'll respect me. And this kind of leads into another topic of like this is why when you're dating someone, you got to see them in their different environments because you don't know how they're going to act. There you
Mm.
go. They're going to be one person with you, they're going to be another person with you and your friends, they're going to be another person with their friends, and they're going to be another person with their family.
Mm.
So it's like if they are all still the same one person at the end of the day, then they're not lying to you. But if they change their personality to suit who they're hanging out with, that's potentially a red flag.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say that. I mean, there's this whole thing about when it comes to that, people talk about the. I mean, the term, what's the term that gets used? Code switching gets used a
Yeah,
lot, and I mean, I feel like there's kind of different levels to that in a sense that okay, I'm not going to talk to a child, the same way I talk to my mum. There's that kind of thing, right? The way you talk to an adult is not going to be the same way you talk to like a little baby. You know, so so if you only ever see me around a child and how I treat a child, and that's the only time you see me, that's the impression you're going to get of me. If you only ever see me around my family and the way I talk towards my family, right, that's the impression you're going to have of me. But it's the same person, it's just two different situations. But I feel like there's that, and then there's actually changing who you are. You know what I mean?
exactly.
So like there's like,
Mhm.
okay, I recognize I'm in a different situation if I'm at a job and I'm talking to my boss. It's not the same situation as if I'm, hanging out with some friends, at a cinema. It's two different situations, and because of that I approach these situations different ways. But if I'm complete a one character with my friends and a different character with my boss, or a different character with my parents, or a different character, and so on and so forth. That's what I feel like. That's that change. And it's like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on here? Why is
Exactly.
somebody, you know, so maybe okay, he's a big man on campus when he's over here, but when he's over here, he's like, oh, yes, sir, please, you know what I mean? It's like, mm,
Yeah, it's okay to have like vocabulary and mannerism changes. Like if you're at work, you can be more stern, and just be like, "No, we need to get this deadline done, guys. Like we have a hard set time limit. The client wants it now." And then you're not going to be like, "Mom, you have to finish the mashed potatoes now. We said 10 minutes ago we were going to have dinner on the table." You're not going to be like that. It's
mm,
like dinner's going to get there regardless. You're still going to eat, but you're not going to be stern with your mother. You know, it's all about the language that you present and then also the attitude behind it. So I think that was something that Haku had those problems with. But on top of that, too, he still, I don't know if he realized that he had that slug in him. So
mm-hmm,
I think he knew, but I don't think he knew to the extent that he had to have it. Because at the beginning, I don't think he really had the slug because that would have gone against Yubaba. Like maybe I'm not sure, but it's kind of like this weird idea of okay, maybe at the beginning he didn't really have like um like the slug overpower him, but when he
mm-hmm,
disappeared throughout after Chihiro asked like are there two Hakus, I think at that point the slug actually started getting a hold of him, and that's why he disappeared for a majority of the film to focus on Chihiro's journey. And then when we see him again, he's like in his dragon form, but it's just kind of like, oh, we didn't know you could do that sort of thing,
mm,
you know? So it's just kind of like maybe his progression of character was due to Yubaba's influence over him.
mm.
So it
Yeah.
could be that kind of like how Zeniba, she used the papers, like I guess paper flies. I don't know. They kind of look like dragonflies. You know what I'm talking about when they were attacking Haku. So she used the papers to kind of emulate herself. But I'm curious if the slug that was in Haku kind of gave her power over Haku, so he wasn't even himself at certain points.
Mm,
It's possible.
yeah, yeah. No, I think I see that. I think I see it. I mean, it's. I guess that's one of the just things about the movie is that it doesn't show everything. And again, like I say with the Yubaba, there's a lot that's kind of just implied. And I guess similar with Haku as well. There's a few things that are implied but not necessarily shown. So it could be that. Yeah, maybe because I mean, we kind of assume, at least I kind of assume that the slug was just always there, but it could be that perhaps in the early stages of the movie when he was helping Chihiro out and giving her the pill and saying, "Hey, look, I'm trying to help you out here." Maybe the slug wasn't there, or maybe it wasn't. Like I say, it just hadn't fully taken a hold of him just yet. And perhaps by the time he's being a bit more standoffish with Chihiro is when the slug was putting him in, but we just don't see that. But again, we kind of take Zenibar's word for it that Yubaba put that slug in him to try and control him more, or something along those lines. I mean, we kind of assume Zeniba's telling the truth, but perhaps she's the one that put the slug in him. We won't know.
Well, I mean, there's a slug in him, and Zeniba's seal is there, so that
Yeah.
that part we know is true. That there's a bad thing in him, and the second witch's seal is there.
Mm.
So, Chihiro, she's like, "I'm gonna kill it," and then the other guy's just like, "You gotta kill it." Oh God, that just looks like it would feel nasty.
Yeah, it's all between
Giant
the toes
slug,
and everything, and
like giant
squash.
ink hole between your toes. That sounds gross.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the minor characters, some of the characters that didn't get so much airtime. Lynn, was it Lynn? Yeah, Lynn.
Yeah,
It's
Lynn.
I thought was quite an interesting character because when she's introduced, she comes across as somebody who doesn't care much for Chihiro or whatever. It's like, oh, I have to deal with this, kind of like that, right? And even in the early stages of the film, like it feels like Chihiro grows on her very quickly, and to the point where, like when she's taking Chihiro up to Yubaba, and she's trying to hide her from, the guy who's like, oh, I can smell humans and stuff like that kind of thing. And he has like the roasted newts on her. Like even in that short amount of time, it just feels like Lynn went from I don't care about this girl to I want to see this girl succeed, and I mean, for me, it kind of speaks more to Chihiro and her kind of, innocence and her charm of just being who she is and just that kind of natural thing, how it kind of, rubs off on people when you're around it. Like you might start off as, oh, geez, I've got to deal with this. But then when you're around something like that's kind of that kind of innocence and that kind of purity, even without it being fully acknowledged, I think a part of you kind of warms to that without realizing, and so by the time she gets to the lift and it's like, she's kind of fully on, or at least almost fully on Chihiro's side, and then throughout the rest of the movie she's kind of helping her out, giving her the clothes and that sort of thing. What was your thoughts on Lynn and her character?
So for Lynn, she's like this big sister kind of character who had to be bribed to at first take over for Chihiro, and like even what's his name? I don't know what his name, but Mr. Long Daddy Arm
Yeah,
guy. He told the
Kumajari.
white
Yeah,
lie
that
of
guy.
like, oh, that's my granddaughter. Take care of her, and if you do, you get
Yeah.
this roasted newt. And apparently, that's like what was that? It's like a really good kind of thing, like golden what Fresher Ferrari. What are those gold
Kamaji.
balls called? You know what I'm talking about?
Gold balls.
Chocolate gold balls. They're wrapped in
What,
gold,
Ferrero
and then
Rocher?
yeah, those. So
Okay,
everyone's
yeah.
treating it like it's one of those, like, oh wow, that's so delicious. Oh yeah, gimme, gimme, gimme. And she's like, okay, well, I'll take it because, she's your granddaughter after all. So she's kind of got like this older sister complex of like, all right, I gotta get this done. Here, give me your shit. Don't you know how to do it? Like we've been through this so many times. Like she's already over it. She's like, there's a system in place, get it done. And
Yeah.
then now all of a sudden she's got this, I wouldn't call her a young protege, but now she's got this younger sister kind of thing going on where it's just like, okay, no one's going to help you because you're human. So I guess I'll help you because I was bribed. And then, later, because of Yubaba, it's just like, okay, there's that. Now she's working here. But it wasn't Yubaba that gave her the command, it was Haku who gave her the command to take care of Chihiro, or Sen at that point. So it had a really interesting pattern of everyone was just bossing her, and she's just like, okay, okay, fine. But then we eventually learn that she wants to like actually leave the bathhouse, but it's just like, but aren't you a spirit? Why are you there in the first place? And there's just a lot of unknowns, uncertainties, because even when we find out about the train tickets, she was so shocked about the train tickets from Daddy Longlegs. And she's just like, oh my God, you had these the whole time? Like, I could have left this place years ago, but apparently not. We don't know what the rest of the spirit world looks like outside of the train tracks, the eating area, and then Zeniba's house. So it's interesting to see that she's got dreams and aspirations, but she's stuck at this like quote unquote waitress job at a bathhouse.
Mm. And perhaps that's part of why she warms to Chihiro, because perhaps she kind of sees a little bit of herself in there as well as this person who just kind of wants to get out. Um, in Chihiro's case, is trying to get out so to save her parents. And in her case, maybe that was just something that she wanted to do and never really did it, and sees Chihiro as this small version of her once upon a time. Perhaps that's a part of it.
Probably. I wouldn't doubt it. Especially because at the end she actually gets Chihiro out and she saves her from No Face. And then No Face goes with her on the train. And she's like, she even apologizes to Chihiro
Yeah.
for calling her a klutz. So it's kind of like it really does play into like this big sister role, especially when it's like mealtime. She's always coming with food. She's providing her with food and like clothing, like you said, and saying, okay, this is the sleeping quarters. So like she's keeping a close eye, like a good big sister would do.
Hmm.
Oh, hello. Oh,
Indeed.
oh. Did you see the
She's a
bump?
kicking. I didn't see it, but okay, cool. We got little bumps on we got a bump on camera. Nice.
I think so. He's been a little active, so I'm just trying to like not squish him. He gets really upset when I bend over or I don't have a good position for him to be in. So
Oh yeah,
I'll have like
definitely make sure she's
bumps
got some
like,
space. Yeah, definitely make sure she's got some space. He could like move around and play Nintendo. Yeah.
oh, speaking of that, yeah, we got it right here. Doo-doo-doo. We also have
All right.
Sega right here too in the guest room. So if people wanted to play retro games,
Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool. Yeah, get a treat, grow the baby up right. Get him in gaming as soon as possible. Start with the old
absolutely
school
try to make
classics.
sure that they're not weak ass little bitches.
Yeah.
Not this family. Mm-mm.
Yeah, we doing it right. We doing it right. Um, but yeah, and I think just with Chihiro as well, and the way people kind of warm to her, I think Kamaji, the daddy long legs, he
Oh,
has
is that his
elements
name?
of.
Just letting me call him whatever I feel like at this point.
All right, cool. We go with daddy long legs for now then. Um, but yeah, even he had that kind of moment of when Chihiro turns up in his room, in his office, or his factory thing, and he's kind of ignoring her and not really paying much attention. And he goes from that to, oh, this is my granddaughter, you know. Yeah, I think there is something about Chihiro and her own spirit in that her strength is maybe that she's not, you know, like physically strong, and maybe she is like a bit of a klutz, and she doesn't really know what's going on or how to. She cries a lot in the beginning because she's scared and things like that. But then her strength is more so in her character and determination, and I think perhaps the spirits are connected to that without realizing they're connected to that.
Yeah.
Is that another kick?
I think that some of the more pure-hearted spirits do connect with her better, because like Yubaba definitely didn't, and then I think Zeniba did as well. But
Mm,
like Yubaba's son, I totally don't remember his name. He like he's a baby, but he got so heartbroken that he's like,
yeah,
play with
baby.
me, play with me, play with me, and that's such a like an innocent thing of like being a kid, like they just want to spend time with someone that's
Mm,
that can give them the love, and maybe Chihiro's like energy gives him that. So that's why he was just so like if he left that room, he thought he would die. He was like germs, ah, and he's
yeah,
like, I did
bubble
it. I
boy.
fought my own fear. So play with me now. Like he's like, I overcome something that's so terrifying, and yet you still don't like me kind of situation. So it's like a whole nother no face.
Yeah, baby was because he was very what's the word sheltered,
Yes,
and the whole
absolutely.
thing about germs and just the fact that he never left his room, and from what we assume, your barber tells him about, if you go away you'll get germs, blah blah blah, and so he's so afraid of getting the germs. It's kind of like that the movie Bubble Boy, where the mother just kept him in that bubble because she was so afraid of germs. But this case, the mother kept him in this room. And told him that you'll get germs and die if you get out, and so there's a manipulation there. Of the baby's just called Baby, by the way. That's the baby's name.
Are you
Just
serious?
Baby. Yeah,
I
I'm looking it up
totally
now. Or Bo might be or
no. His name's Bo.
Bo Baby
Yeah, BOH.
Bo. Okay, so the baby's name's Bo.
He's
Unless Bo means baby, I
not
don't know.
wearing
But
diaper, just a bib that covers his crotch.
yeah, it's a
Like it's the
giant
neck and then
baby
ties to the back, and then his name's Bo.
Bo. Um, but yeah, so he's just very kind of sheltered and spoiled as well. When Chihiro turns up and he's like, "Oh, play with me or I'll scream." And she's like, "I could play with you later, but I can't do it now because I've got to, do this thing." And he just wouldn't hear it because so I guess there's like, I mean, again, we're kind of assuming things because we're not showing it, but we're assuming that your barber just spoils him and pretty much does whatever he wants, but at the same
Are you
time
kidding me?
manipulates him.
He's definitely spoiled.
He's spoiled and manipulated at the same time, so he's spoiled in that he gets all these things, but manipulated in that he's being controlled. So there's maybe equal amounts him being spoiled, equal amounts him being controlled and manipulated by you, Barbara, which is kind of interesting as well, in that there's neither of them are really good things, but he's getting both spoiled and manipulated, perhaps being manipulated through being spoiled, you know.
Yeah, and that's not a good type of mother's love. I would know.
Yeah,
Yeah, sometimes you got to be a little strict and stern
yeah,
for their own
sometimes.
good, so they know not to. Like, oh, okay, you didn't finish your dinner, so that means no dessert. And it's like, no, 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 you got to eat a little bit more, and then you can have, maybe a cookie or something. You don't just get a cookie
Mm,
because you don't eat your vegetables.
yeah, yeah, indeed. I think I mean, you're the parent here. I'm just the outsider looking in. But yeah, I think there is that whole thing of that line. I guess you have to try and draw between. You want your kids to have fun and have cool stuff and enjoy life as much as possible. But at the same time, as the adult, you know that you can't just give them absolutely everything they want because everything they want isn't necessarily good for them. And you have to be able to draw that line and say, no, we can't have this, or at least you can't have this until we do this, or we can't do that because of this, and so on and so forth. And that's not always going to be easy things to do when your baby starts crying, but then that's part of raising the child, and that you have to sometimes let them cry, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of like, I'm sorry, but you just it's hard because like my son Mario, he loves playing outside and he loves playing with this watering can. Watering cans is his favorite toy outside. Like it's so funny. He just loves holding it. He likes putting things in it. He likes just playing with it. But when it's time to come inside, he's so heartbroken. He's like, I want the watering can. He doesn't say that, but you know, he's crying.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's time to come in. You got to come in now. It's getting dark outside, or it's getting wet. And he just doesn't understand that this is the best for him, and we can't stay
Mm.
outside anymore because it's too cold, and his hands are like turning red, and so it's like, yeah, no, you got to come in now.
Mm.
And sometimes it's just what happens with kids, and they don't know any better. They just want to keep going until it's too much for them.
I just realized something. His nickname's Mario, and his favorite thing is a watering can. Hmm.
Yeah. He's got a dog. He's got puppy dogs. Like he loves stuffed animals now. It's so fun. I have to keep
I'm just
washing
saying,
them
there's
because
a.
in the morning he eats yogurt. So he has his like stuffed animal in one arm, and then he's eating yogurt, and then he like turns and like does things. And so his little stuffed animal gets inside the yogurt. And I'm just like, ah, I gotta wash that. And he like
I'm just.
puts it on his little high chair table, and he's like eating more with the yogurt. And then it gets all over his stuffed animal, and I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I'm just saying, there's another Mario who also likes water, or more specifically, working with things that water travels through.
what are you
Super
talking
Mario.
about? What?
Super Mario. He's a plumber.
Oh, I thought you were trying to reference Super Mario Sunshine. I was just
Oh, I
like,
guess
you're
that
not going to
too.
do a
I
good
guess that
job.
too. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he has the water shooter in that. But yeah, Mario's a plumber, and then
Yeah.
your Mario likes water cans. So I'm just saying, there's a clear connection.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
he's,
kind
maybe
of
he's gonna be
funny
a
how
plumber
that
one
works
day.
out, doesn't it? Because like, it's not like um because I know why. I know why he likes it. Because when he was younger, I would put him in the stroller and I would take him into our greenhouse where we have all our vegetables and plants growing. And I would walk back and forth to the house to get more water in the watering can because the greenhouse has the watering can inside there. So we got to go get the watering can. Then we got to go take it out, get the water, and bring it back to the greenhouse. And then we leave the watering can there. And he would always see us handling the watering can. So he wants to do it too. And I mean, hey, it's good because we're making plants.
Yeah, water your
It's
plants.
responsibility.
Water your plants.
Mhm.
Right. Growing your own plants, so growing your vegetables, actually, I mean, I've not done it myself, so I can't speak too much to it. But I feel like that's something that, if I had more space, I'd want to do that. Like
Oh,
grow my own
absolutely.
vegetables.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Last year was the first time that we did it, and we had seedlings. So we did seedlings from tomato plants, and then we had seedlings, well, saplings, tomato saplings. And the saplings were just so much better than the seed ones. So that's why we're only going to do saplings for now on. It's not that we can't do it. We definitely did it because we had a pumpkin patch. The pumpkin patch only yielded like this like small little pumpkin like this big. But like we still made it live. It happened.
Hmm.
And then they die out because you have to replant them again. And then we had grape trees. Grape trees are still alive, but it's not in season, so they're kind of dead looking.
Hmm.
um, Tomato plants definitely died. The pea plants died. The blueberries are still alive, and then we just got new strawberries. But it is so fascinating to have a garden where you can just go in, grab like a cucumber, a handful of cherry tomatoes, bring them back inside to your house and make a fresh garden salad. It is
Mm,
amazing. Highly recommend if you have
mm.
like a small window shelf or like what is this called? Like a window where you can have like a basket on the outside just so you can have like a
Oh
hanging
yeah, yeah,
garden.
yeah.
Absolutely do it. Why? It is stress free. You just water and then pop, you could just pick it. And we had so much yield of cherry tomatoes that we started giving them away to our neighbor.
That's so cool. That's
Highly
so
recommend.
cool.
Highly
Yeah,
recommend.
I must start doing that. Figure out where I'm gonna put them. But yeah, this time
Yeah,
next year, I'll have a
it
whole
was just
garden, have a whole farm of like fruits and vegetables. Well,
it
maybe not
is
fruits.
so
It's the
much
week got a lot of
fun.
sun out here.
Cause let's see, what was it? We had like 3 bags of strawberries. They made small strawberries. They weren't that big. Some were big, but it was just so cute to like lay out in the sun and have like a fruit picnic. So we had
Mm.
blueberries and we had strawberries. And it's funny because when my son had like come over and that we gave him a fake watering can. So he would just take the watering can and he'd be like, and then he would grab the blueberries off the plant and try to like eat the leaves at the same time. I'm like, baby, no,
Not
eat
leaves.
the blueberries.
Well,
But
live and
he
learn.
understood like this is how food grows, and it was really really fun to do that with him. I don't know how we got on this topic.
Well, speaking of food, food of course does come up in Spirited Away in the beginning of the movie where the parents eat all the food. Um, I mean, my view on that is they should have ate the food. And granted, maybe turning them into pigs is a bit extreme, right? But ultimately, they ate food that wasn't theirs without permission, and there should be some kind of consequence for that. Maybe not turning them into pigs, but they should. I mean, they're dealing with a spirit. Spirits aren't, I guess, aren't too logical when it comes to these things.
It also
But
doesn't make sense how they just got food randomly. Like it's an abandoned amusement park, and then you smell something good. That means you should probably not pursue that. I know that they need to make a story, but shit on a brick, like have some common sense. Why would
right,
there be a block in the road, no like correct path to this restaurant? Like, no, get your ass out of there. Like
yeah.
Chihiro was absolutely right to not pursue too much further and not eat anything. And it's like, yeah, it looks good, but you don't know if that's real. You could be eating cockroaches. I don't know. And it was just so gross. I was just like, look, all of it's meat right now and it's oily and it was not for me. It's still not for me. And I'm kind of like miffed at her parents because it's just like, were you put in a spell or something? Like, that makes me really mad in the essence of like, you should know better. That's like taking
Mm.
candy from a stranger. Look what
Yeah,
happened.
for
You
real.
turned
Like
into
literally.
pigs.
Well, literally, they took meat from strangers, but yeah, pretty much. They yeah. So you turn to this place. First of all, they walk through this like strange tunnel, and after meeting that kind of dead end in the road, they kind of walk through this strange tunnel, and they see this, like I say, abandoned place, and there's all this. There's a lot of food, and that food was clearly recently put there. So it's kind of like,
Exactly.
this is not like clearly not somebody's put it
This
there
is
for a
not
reason.
McDonald's.
You know what I mean? Like this, it's not like it's like the whole thing about if you find money on the street. Like if you found like I don't know £5 on the street, you could probably somewhat safely assume somebody lost it and they're not coming back for it. If you found like £1,000 on the streets, somebody's coming back for that. That is not lost; it was placed there. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
And when you see
there is
that much
someone
food,
with a hook and wanting to find you and then like shank your ass for your liver. You know what I'm saying?
exactly,
Or your
just
kidney.
leave
They
it
want to make
alone.
sure that they find you and you're going to be the one that pays.
And they did pay. They got turned into pigs.
Well,
They
I
got
mean,
turned
at
into
the end of
pigs.
the movie, they came back because that's what happened.
Yeah, but that was all thanks to. Well, I guess I think about it as well. Like even beginning, Chihiro's always that person who was never impressed by abundance. With the food and just kind of seeing things like this isn't right, and I'm gonna kind of stick to my own feelings on
intuition.
this about there's something not right about this, and I don't want to eat this food no matter how good it looks because well it could belong to somebody, there could be something wrong with it, who knows, it's just something not right here. And then yeah, her parents don't turn into pigs, which yeah, bit extreme with a punishment, but end of the day is like, bro, you should not be eating food that does not belong to you, especially when it's clearly put there for a reason, and it's a reason that you have no idea what it's about. You just turn up and start eating. Like, nah, that's not okay.
Yeah,
That's not okay.
that's just a no off the bat. Like you don't go to a restaurant stand and just start eating without being addressed by like someone. First
Mm,
off, you don't know what's in it. Two, you don't know who cooked it. Three, you don't know how much that costs. Or four, if that's for someone else. Like you just don't take food that's been placed out in the middle of an abandoned amusement park. It's
yeah.
dangerous. It's abandoned. Like there's no common sense there. And it makes me mad. As a parent,
Yeah.
it makes me so angry. Like, first off, like, he's like, oh, this must be the road. It's like, are you sure? I don't think you're right. Like, I don't appreciate the dumbness of Chihiro's parents.
Mm,
Like, their stupidity levels are so off the charts for me. And that's coming up from a lot. So I'm just like, you don't want to rethink that. But again, this is 2001. Did they have MapQuest back then? I think so. So,
MapQuest, what's that, like GPS?
yes, that was before
Yeah.
Google Maps.
Okay. I mean, GPS. Yeah, I think GPS has been around so long before 2001. I think
Yes.
so. We would have
So
had.
the fact that he took an off road to an abandoned amusement park trying to get to their new house that's light blue up the hill. And it's just like, like you could have gone a different way and now you got to double back because you fucked up. It's like, yeah, it's cool to sightsee, but couldn't you have done it after you got to the house? Like, no, because then we wouldn't have a story. But at the same time, I'm just like, the nonsense that you put your family through is so dangerous.
Mm,
Relax, it's 4-wheel drive. I don't like her parents. That's
right.
the TLDR podcast.
Yeah.
I don't
We
like her
we don't, we
parents.
don't. Yeah. The parents. Nah, we don't like them.
Yeah, you
So I just had a
deserve to be
quick.
turned into a pig.
I just did a quick Google search. GPS was invented in 1973, and it became publicly available in 1983. So yeah, 2001. They should have known better.
Yeah, exactly.
They should have known better. Yeah, no
They
excuses.
should have known frickin' better.
Dumbass parents. Actually, no, yeah, maybe they did got what they deserve. Maybe they should have been turned into pigs. Maybe they actually just got they ate the food like pigs. They got turned into pigs. Maybe they got exactly what they deserved. So
I mean, they. All I'm saying is, for those out there, please have some dignity and common sense to not do that.
yeah, really,
It shouldn't be that hard. It
really.
really
The lucky
shouldn't.
Chihiro was so innocent and pure, but clearly she doesn't get that from her parents. She's just a good person. Um,
Yeah, she's
but
a
yeah,
good soul. She's got good intuition. Cause like she even sniffed out the con artist from like the con artist part from No Face and even got him to be a better person after she gave him like the medicine or like the medicine
mm,
herbal ball. And he's like, I just want to be your friend. And it's just like, well, if you want to be my friend, you have to be a good person now. You can't treat the bathhouse like a muck and
mm,
be so rambunctious everywhere, you know. And
yeah,
she even kind of did that to Bo too, the baby. She's like, "No, you can't act like that. I can't play with you because I have other priorities, but like I can play with you later." But then like it made him explore like all of this other stuff of like he left his room for the first time. And then his own mom treated him badly because she couldn't even recognize him because of the spell. And it's just like I think at the end he even says like you're not a good person, mom. Like it's like holy shit, I
yeah, yeah,
cannot do
yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of to my mother, you know. Like
bro.
I don't see eye to eye on everything, but I'm not gonna just flat out and be like you're a bad mom. Like no, like I don't. We know you, Baba, is a bad person. We know she's capitalist and money driven. But it's also another thing if she can't even like I don't know. I think it's hard. because as a cosplayer, it's hard to recognize people when they change their costume. And you're like, oh, I don't know who you are. It's like, oh, I saw you yesterday and I was wearing this. It's like, you're just wearing something different. I don't even know who you are. And so it's pretty hard to tell a cosplayer if they don't have like a recognizable face, or even if they use like makeup prosthetics to change their face. So you're pretty fucked. But Yubaba being like the spellcaster witch person that she is, she should have been able to detect that magic. Don't you agree?
True, but I think in fairness, um, and in her defense of not seeing it right away, is that you also don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean? And perhaps Yubaba has this kind of arrogance of, I think, because there's a lot of arrogance in the movie as well, with the parents eating the food and assuming they know where they go in. And Yubaba has a level of arrogance in that, you know, she's this top, you know, she's top of the mountain, you know, no one could touch her. And perhaps it just didn't occur to her that actually you can get touched, you know, and she did when Zenipa turned up and turned her baby into the mouse thingy, into the hamster thingy McThingy.
It's a mouse.
Was that a hamster or I don't know, gerbil? I don't
It's
know
a
what animal it
mouse.
was. Was it a
Bo
mouse?
gets turned into a mouse.
It was some kind of creature, some mini creature,
It's a
and then turns those
mouse.
heads into the baby,
Yes. He turns into a mouse.
into a mouse. Yeah, and then
Yes.
Yubaba is so kind of in her own head that this could never happen to her, that she doesn't realize that it happened to her. You know, now I say that's in her defense. I probably just made her sound worse than it actually did. But you know, I get why she might not notice it right away, because she's perhaps living in her own arrogance more so than actually paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah. So I think
So maybe not quite her
maybe
defense.
I don't know. I just think it's really strange in the essence of like I guess she was just in her like I'm the boss mindset, and
Yeah.
not one of those like, oh yeah, I can tell like this is this, this is this. I don't like, sometimes when you're just doing something you overlook small details. But even Chihiro goes, you don't recognize him? So
Mm.
and then she's like, no,
Sokowa's
I got
like,
work
wait a
to do.
minute.
What? What?
Oh, that's where she took spell off. She was like, did that thing with her hand to take spell off.
Yeah, she did that when
Yeah.
it was the three heads, and then the three heads
Yeah.
rolled away. And then she flips out. Like, surprise, your son was
Yeah.
gone this whole time. You fucked up.
Yeah. And speaking of spells and innocence, of course, by the time it ends, like the one last mission or one last task that your brother wanted presented Chihiro with is that, look, you can go home and you can have your parents back if you could tell me which one of these pigs are your parents. And it turns out it was a trick, because her parents weren't even there with the other pigs, and it was like, okay, she actually got it right. And again, I guess that speaks more to Chihiro and her own innocence of being able to maintain this her own mission of wanting to save her parents and not losing sight of that. Perhaps had she taken the gold and had she maybe brought more into their world, being able to tell her parents apart might have been more difficult, because she'd have been, or even just losing her name, might have been more difficult to tell her parents at that point, just because everything in her mind would have been more attached to the spirit world. But the fact that she remained separate from that, and remember her name and remembered why she was there in the first place, was why she was able to look at the pigs and say, nah, none of them are my parents.
Yeah.
And even when she did that, the way she wasn't like, oh, are you trying to trick me, or what's this about? She was like, there must be a mistake, my parents aren't here. So even in recognizing her parents weren't there, it was still like, I'm not going to point the finger at you and call you a mean person for trying to trick me. I'm just letting you know that actually, wait a minute, I think something's not quite right here. So I think it all kind of ties into Chihiro's character and just her own innocence and strength of um well, strength of character and her kind of nobility, that you have this representation of arrogance being Yubaba, and then maybe the polar opposite of that being Chihiro. And just how they deal with things, Yubaba thinking, I'm gonna give it this one last try. There's no way she's gonna get it right. Her parents aren't even there. She's just gonna pick one of these random ones, and it's not even gonna be right because her parents aren't even there. That's Yubaba's arrogance. Chihiro's opposite of that being, there must be a mistake. My parents aren't here. I'm not accusing you of trying to trick me. I'm just letting you know that their parents are here. So there's this two kind of polar opposites of one being arrogant and one being, well, not.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know if I would be able to, if I was in Chihiro's shoes, like, I wouldn't know if I could call them out. But, like, the one other part too is like, Haku showed her parents. So it's just like, these are your parents now. And it's like these little piggies. And it's like,
Mm,
how do you know that? Like, how do you know they're just not some random other, like, spirit pig, you know?
mm,
And that's what bothered me this whole time about that whole, like, oh, my parents are pigs. Yes, we know they are pigs because we saw them manifest themselves into, like, becoming pigs. So it's just like, but did they stay pigs this whole time? What if you were lied to? Because we don't know if Yubaba was possessing Haku this whole time. And so
mm.
it just, that part really kind of like stressed me out. It's like, how do you know that your parents aren't there? Like, do you have a gut
Le-
feeling that they already
Lucky
went back to
guess.
the tunnel? Like, it just, I feel like I wish, for me personally, I wish they explained it more on how she
Mm,
knew. Kind of,
yeah.
and just not intuition, but it's just, I don't know. It just felt like this, like, magical, like, these aren't my parents. They're not here. And it's like, but how do you know that? Like, are their earrings missing? Are they missing like some hair or a mole? Like, how do you know?
Yeah, and perhaps that's maybe the one kind of minor gripe I have with the movie, because I don't have an issue with films that don't explain things. I think there's definitely times where you can explain too much in a film, but I do feel like
Mm,
sometimes it perhaps didn't quite explain enough, and because there is a lot that you somewhat assume, or things that are implied, or things that you kind of have to kind of guess, because they're not really explained or shown. And I mean, that's fine, I guess, from a filmmaker point of view, but yeah, sometimes it can be just a bit like, okay, so we just have to guess how she knew it was that her parents weren't there. Which I guess I assume that's what they wanted us to be doing. But it's also like, I feel like I need a few answers just in a couple of places. Not all the answers. I don't need all the answers, but maybe just a few answers to point me in a bit more of a direction, because it is kind of like, okay, well, I'm assuming, you know, her innocence. I'm assuming Yubaba's arrogance. I'm assuming she has his connection with the spirit. Well, what she does because of Kahaku. But we do assume a lot throughout the movie from the characters and how they relate to each other. And I don't think they're bad assumptions. I think, especially like talking about it now, a lot of it does make sense in my head. But at the same time, we are assuming things, because there is so much that isn't quite explained or shown or anything like that, which again, fine, I don't mind that from a filmmaker's point of view, but perhaps in this particular movie there's maybe just a few too many things left unexplained.
right. And that's just one of those pieces of like, wait a second. Like, it doesn't need to be like a Death Note long light, like,
mm,
L explanation. You know what I mean? Just like, even if she said, I just have a hunch that because of like the person that you are, you Baba, my parents aren't here. I would have taken something as simple as that,
mm,
as opposed to my parents aren't here. Like
yeah,
I'm just missing that tiny little detail. Hello.
just through the power of love she knew her parents weren't there. Power of love
Yeah.
explains everything.
It's
It's
like,
the
was it the
power
smell?
of love. Yeah. I guess it's how they explain it in Doctor Who, Wibbly wobbly timey wimey. Anything that doesn't make sense, it's just wibbly wobbly timey wimey. That's the explanation for everything.
You could just chalk it up to Hayao Miyazaki just wanting to end the film now.
Yeah. Aliens.
That guy.
Or in this case, I suppose, spirits.
Spirits.
Yeah, anything we can't explain, spirits.
Perfect. Medicine
Yeah.
ball. No, that's
it,
another thing that bothers the crap out of me. I thought she finished the medicine herbal ball when she got the bean bun from Lynn. She took a bite out of it and then she starts choking on it and then she eats the rest of her bun, right? But I'm just like, how big was this stupid medicine herbal ball? Because like she took a bite, she gave a little bit to Haku, and then she gave a bit to No Face. I'm just like,
she gave the rest of it to No Face. I think.
The size of a fist at this point. It's like the size of my fist at this point. I'm just like, when they first drew it, she's like, got it in her hand, and I'm like, what the? That doesn't look that big. It looks like a donut, you know. And I'm just like, how many bites did you take out of the donut the first time you took the donut? And then you're keeping it in your pocket. That's gross.
Yeah, so I got fluff and limp getting picked up, and it's not even in the bag or anything. It's just like, all right.
Yeah. I mean, it's not
Nobody got sick afterwards.
No Face did. And then definitely like, Haku. Haku and No Face threw up after they took it. Of course they got sick.
Yeah. The way you just shoved it in their mouth as well. It had a whole fist down in Haku's dragon throat. Just like shoved it down there and then jumped. And that's one thing actually. Maybe, I don't know if you could call it an inconsistency or not, but she's kind of shown to be somewhat physically weak throughout most of the movie, right? But when it came to holding down that dragon's mouth, she held it down.
Oh, but no. Okay, so like because I rewatched it, I'm kind of fresh on that scene. So
okay,
two parts to that. So I'll address yours, and then there's another part that I want to go into. She was holding it down with her entire body, so she like koala clamped the crap out of that. So she was able to use her legs, her full body weight, and her arms. So that's how she was able to like keep him clamped down. Now, the second part that I want to bring up, that bitch's mouth is full of dragon teeth and it was shut tight. And she like, lifts it up. I have to do that for my bulldogs. And that I don't know how sharp those teeth are, but this little girl is shoving, this little lint roll, roll herbal cake that she bit off. She bit off a piece and then is now like shoving it inside his mouth. And I'm just like, bitch, you're gonna get your arm bit off. Are you insane? Right. Like, I would have put it on his tongue, lifted his head up, and be like, swallow, swallow. Because I do that to my bulldogs when I have to. So like I put it on his tongue and I'm like, nope, and they're like, and they're trying to get it out. But I'm just like, Chihiro, you shoved your entire arm into this dragon's mouth that could really just like clean sever off like Attack on Titan. Like, you psychotic little girl.
And that dragon weren't exactly in its right state of mind at that point either. So that all it would take is one tiny twist, and that's your whole arm gone. You know what I mean? That's your whole arm taken off at that point. It's like
crocodile ripped apart. Like, it's gone. It's not mauled. It's like it. Sorry, you ain't got an arm anymore. You no.
But then, like we were saying before about the whole adrenaline thing, and when you're just not thinking about safety, I guess that's part of it as well. Just not thinking about safety, just like maybe just like shove this thing down its throat and not think about the fact that it could literally take my whole arm off at any second, not even trying to, just like twist, boom, gone. But you're not even thinking about that, just like round the throat, jump on it, hold it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Make it spit out some poison medicine. Yeah. All right. Well, we went that route. Okay, we went that route.
That happened.
All right. I'm just looking through my notes real quick. I think we discussed a lot. Is there anything that you wanted to mention that we haven't talked about as regards to Spirited Away?
I think Zenyatta, I think she was a really quick character that they just threw in last minute.
Hmm.
I don't feel like they needed to add her. I'm kind of like they could have cut, like shaved a lot of the budget and animation time without needing to have a twin. I think they could have like resolved that without having that like little bit. Like I don't think of her as a weak character, but I think of her as a character that just wasn't necessary. Like yes, she is the opposite side of her sister where she just lives in the woods and she's a bog witch. But at the same time, if she's this powerful, like it's nice to see that someone with power can still remain humble. But at the same time, I'm like, you have way too many themes with this story, and I just think that part just made it too much to have like a
Hmm.
second witch that looks like that's identical, and then nothing happens with her after they leave the cottage, and that's where No Face goes. It's like you couldn't just like let No Face just walk past like the bridge again. I don't dislike her as a character, but I feel like it was just a little bit unnecessary to keep going with the story at that point.
Hmm.
Like they could I think they could have finished it without needing that whole like area. Like I feel like Lynn's character could have just given her like something that she made. She's like, like some sisterly kind of bond thing of like, it's been a
Hmm.
short time here and with like the small amount of money that I made you this like special hairband kind of thing. As opposed to like needing to use Bo and the bird lady and No Face to like spin like a special talisman headband. Like I think they had enough characters as is without needing to introduce or do more with the pre-existing cast.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yeah, nothing I could see that. I mean, yeah, like I say, I don't think she's strictly speaking a waste of time character, but yeah, perhaps not a super necessary character either. Or perhaps if they were going to have a twin sister, perhaps introduce her earlier because it does kind of feel like, okay, she comes into the story and she's there and it's like, oh, there's a twin sister and they have this history that we know nothing about, so it's kind of like, okay, cool. Now what? So like it kind of gets introduced and resolved very quickly. I guess there is an impact on I mean, the whole thing about Kahaku being sent to get the thing back and then do the final test. But yeah, how necessary was that? You could have just, okay, you could have just done a final test, So yeah, it's an interesting character in the sense that it adds a depth to Yubaba and her whole story, but then it's a depth that's never really explored. So it's just, okay, there is a twin sister. They do have a history. They are somewhat polar opposites in their approach to spells and magic, and perhaps have this rivalry that, or perhaps they do have a rivalry. But yeah, none of that is really explained or explored. It's just mentioned and there at the end, and it's like, okay, cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't do much with it.
Yeah, and
But yeah.
I think that's a little wasteful. Like if anything, they could have had like a sub movie like come out and been like I don't want to call it Spirited Away too, but like have like the witches battle a Spirited Away like sub
Mm,
story kind of thing. You know what I mean? Not to like
yeah.
secondly explore it, but it's just like I think that's a fascinating concept to have two witches identical and then like two different business fronts or something along that line. And they could have really explored that and fleshed that out into like such a grander scale than what it is on Spirited Away. I
Mm,
just think it's a little bit unnecessary. I don't dislike it for it being in there, but at the same time, it's like we already have so many characters introduced and then exiting, and it's like, you know, I think they could have changed the story with the river spirit, with the gunk in it, being like, oh, you did so good. Maybe I'll give you this chance now to find your parents. Like, why did it take so long for her to be able to have that kind of chance? Because it just feels like they could have done something better with that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. No, no, I think I'd agree with that. All right. So before we end today's podcast on our Spirits Away discussion, um, do you have any final thoughts on Spirits Away? The final takeaway of Spirits Away to let the people know what you think of it.
Absolutely, everyone must watch this. It is an animation masterpiece. Just
Mm.
the art style, the animation flow, the storytelling that it has, the characters, the world building. It is very fabulous, and I think it's well respected for what it is and what it and even to this day it's still a masterpiece. So if you haven't watched it, you've done something wrong with your life. So go watch it.
Yeah, no, 100% indeed agree with that. And like I said before, I'm not sure if I mentioned this during the podcast. If I don't think I did, but hopefully from what I said, it was kind of clear, obvious. But well, I'll say it anyway. But yeah, like I was saying before, it's kind of a weird film in that it's because you don't always have these. I mean, you have bad guys. I guess you can technically have a bad guy, you technically have a good people, and this and that, but you don't necessarily have a very clear cut good guy, bad guy at all times. And so it's kind of a weird movie in that sense. And certainly not something I think we see in a lot of Western movies. Or in Western movies, or unless someone wants to correct me on that, then maybe there is plenty of that I just haven't seen. But certainly something that I don't see too much in a film where you're telling a story about a little girl and her adventure, and just trying to get her parents back. So I think I would still call this a must-see film, even if you're not into anime, even if you're not really into these types of movies, that kind of thing. I do think this is a film that everybody should watch, even if you don't particularly enjoy it, to be quite frank with you. I feel like it's the type of movie that you should watch even if you don't actually like it. If you consider yourself to be any kind of film fan or any kind of appreciator of art, this is a film I think people should watch because it does take a different approach to filmmaking and storytelling that a lot of things don't do, at least again not that I see. So yeah, I would definitely call this a must-see movie. It's a weird film at times. It's a great film at times. It could be a frustrating film at times. It could be all that and more. So yeah, those are my final takeaways on Spirits Away. Go watch. If you listen to this podcast this far, you should have seen it already. But if you haven't, then oh well. You got the spoiler warnings already. That's your own thing. Go watch the movie. It's a good film. But yeah, I think that's where we're gonna wrap up this particular episode of the Uncivilized Arts podcast. If you have any suggestions or recommendations of movies or shows or things you want to hear us talking about, or other topics you want to hear us talking about, drop in the comments. That's something we can do. But yeah, that's gonna be all for now. So guys, thank you for watching and or listening, and until whenever, if ever, peace.